So just before we start, we're live, right? We're gonna do the intro.
Okay, I want to thank everyone for coming this evening. We are now calling the meeting to order. Time is now 7:30 p.m. I want to thank everyone for coming to the executive committee meeting for Brooklyn Community Board 9. This is our last meeting of the executive committee of this executive committee for this year. So let's just do introductions very quickly, if we can.
Hi, my name is Linda Watson-Gore, and I'm the current executive secretary.
You can normally currently first vice chair.
Lionel Gute, currently the treasurer and housing committee chair.
All right, and hearing that, we do have a quorum of the executive committee. So just as a point of personal privilege, I want to thank all of the officers. This is the last time we will be together as this slate of officers for the executive committee. And I just have to thank you for your dedication and commitment to all the hard work you've done. It's not possible without your commitment, for everything, without everything you've done, and you coming in consistently. I thank you on behalf of the board, and I thank you on behalf of myself as well. It's been an honor and a privilege working with all of you in this capacity. So to be here with the board, and I'm going to be cheering on and supporting this executive committee and everything they do afterwards. Okay, we're going to have to move we're a little bit behind, so we're going to move very quickly. At this time, we're going to go to committee chair check-ins. Anybody who wants to volunteer?
Well, first, I did two.
Transportation.
Continue the education in libraries. Kind of like we wound down the year by talking about ways to things that went well over the past meetings and things that did not go well and want to improve. I'll cover things that went well first. Things that went well were some of the events. They really liked the education town hall, the job fair. That those two events were well attended. The job fair even more. The town hall was really well attended by stakeholders and people who came to speak on the panel. And we appreciated seeing that kind of presence from the officials and other people who have a stake in education and how that gets formed. So they want to continue doing events like that to kind of engage with the public and the community and get better conversations coming out of this area and this community about things that matter to us, like education and that kind of stuff. Job fair was really well attended by the youth and those who are looking for jobs or prime candidates for jobs. They want to continue that sort of going ahead. They want to double down on certain events that did well, potentially think about cutting ones that didn't, and just sort of zooming into the ones that brought that as attendance and kind of expanding based on the format of those. Things that didn't go well, some of the planning was a little bit wonky. There were some personal issues that you probably are all aware of on that committee that kind of ideally shouldn't get as serious as they did. Some of the ways that we outlined trying to prevent that, or at least minimize that in the future, are one, we want to have like a set of standards that can kind of tell people how we can avoid making conflicts worse or avoid making conflicts bad in the first place. They're gonna happen. We're adults and people sometimes wrestle with each other, and that's okay. But how we respond to it is important. And I think generally there isn't that much information out in the world telling people how we can communicate in ways that really solve serious problems. So in future, there's a lot of attention towards probably, of course, there's mediation efforts too, but also like making board members more adept at self-mediating and taking care of these issues, and just being more equipped as adults to like handle these things better, so they don't get out of hand. That's part of it, and that's gonna if that happens, that could be beneficial to the whole board, not just to that one committee. So that's I think an idea that is probably worth going after. Apart from that, also just being clear about rules and about how communication runs between committees and the board office and executive committee and different things like that, so that everyone who comes in doesn't have to kind of guess and learn from someone, but there's a way everyone can know how these things go from the jump would be ideal. Because some of these little gaps in knowledge end up turning into bigger problems when people just don't know and assume that they do. So we want to just make sure that all these things are clear from day one as opposed to like from day 50, right? But other than that, there were a few things I went to. They also talked about maybe having like a committee that people could sort of bring problems to, maybe like a mediation committee or something like that on the board, where there are members who can at least like get notified about issues in committees before they start to like become noticeable by the rest of the board. That was a suggestion that was brought up, and people generally the whole room had a good response to that one too. So yeah, generally it was a good recap. We outlined a few things I want to work on next year. There seems to be a good willingness to keep the work going and continue it for next year. So of course things like, job fairs, town halls, those other types of events that they want to continue to sort of add to the Soccer Fest. And there was one more thing we talked about that was really important that I remember right now, and that was inter-committee collaboration. A lot of them felt like the Soccer Fest being a sort of a intercommittee effort with parks was a really valuable event, and there was a lot of appetite to make that a more common thing. And I think it's something that the board committees have been trying to do for a long time, but the how has been kind of not figured out, because the first thing people think about when they think about committees working together is, do we have to go to more meetings? Like, do we just have joint meetings and it's not an extra one? Does that replace an existing meeting? It sounds like more attendance, when it might. There's going to be some form of showing up, but it doesn't need to be like an extra meeting for two committees. It could probably be maybe one or two members from one committee present at a different committee's meeting, just on their agenda, and kind of have that be a spark for a joint effort somewhere, and things like that. Generally, sometimes emails fall through the cracks and text communications can kind of get a little bit unnoticed when you're busy doing your own thing. But I think the committee was pretty happy to look at that as a way to move forward, and they brought that up as a way that they appreciated being with the Soccer Fest. So overall, there's a lot of, I think, willingness to keep their own events, but also collaborate with others, like maybe bringing in environmental protection on like some of the cliffs they've been doing. Right, they've been doing a lot of cleanup type events as well. And I think back in April they did a couple, and those are things that other communities could also collaborate in and either help build out or help with attendance or just stuff like that. So I think that kind of rounds out how that meeting went.
All right, do you have any action items from?
No.
All right, let's take.
You didn't get a quorum, so
I
no.
have a question. How come they got so even the same?
Anyways,
This is for education.
this is for education.
Education services.
Yeah, education training services.
He's the chair. Because you.
I chaired it
No.
once, yes.
The chair had resigned, so I
Did
had
they
asked.
resign one day?
Yeah,
I
the-
heard she come back the next day. Are we wrong? Okay.
No, she
She was out as chair.
Oh.
So they had the
He
last
took- okay, good.
education
Because
line.
I'm sorry, Ethan, that was
it's
good.
okay. It's
So
okay.
this so you might see transportation.
Ethan serves
So
as the
you're
interim chair
right.
for
That's
that.
good.
closing
That's
comments.
nice. That's nice. All right. Thank you.
All right, so there were no action items. Are there any questions from the exec? All right, just a couple of notes with some of that. First of all, again, thank you for
Yes.
stepping in and taking care of that. And my thanks to the committee as well, because I know that they had their challenges throughout the year as well. But they've also had some really, really good events that I was very happy to hear. I definitely enjoyed the town hall, the educators town hall they had. The career fair was another job well done again in terms of exposing our kids, giving them assistance with resumes, different organizations that are at the job space and opportunities. So fantastic. And I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm hoping that they'll return.
Yeah.
I know that one of the issues that they had as well was with to Ethan's point about conflict resolution, mediation, those kinds of things. I think those are larger conversations that we should have as a board as well. Just in terms of how do we speak to each other, how do we interact with each other, how do we interact with the community. Understanding that, I think it's important for us as the board to be able to at least have that understanding about how do we mediate conflict in the district. I would say we have tough conversations, so I think it's really incumbent upon us to set the example in terms of how do we have these conversations, how do we establish as part of culture, to assume best intention first, and how do we say, well, listen, can we come to solutions as opposed to digging in and just saying, no, we're diametrically opposed and I must kill you or whatever. Just, finding ways to do that. And to the point as well that was brought up, and I appreciate that. Do we have structures or processes for mediation? So we can avoid, so we can hopefully mitigate some of these things wherever possible, so that way we can be able to continue to work together and and preserve the good function of the board. So I had already reached out. The district manager had actually already reached out. So we do have resources that we're looking into. I know that there are some budgetary things he's considering as well, and hopefully that becomes part of training, which also goes to what you were saying before, I think, as well. Training is going to be something that's going to be key for for our committees in terms of what skill sets they'll need, understanding roles in committees, understanding, listen, the role of a chair, the role of a vice chair, the qualifications for vice chairs, and just so that way everybody understands how these things function. I think that hopefully allows for smoother meetings as we go forward. And I'll definitely, Dante has that information, which we will definitely share with the leader. And as part of the transition, we'll share that, what's been done, and new leadership will decide what the next direction, the next steps are going to be with regards to that.
Aware that something was going on.
Yeah, that may be a good thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
But there were some issues.
Okay.
So we have that.
Well, the good news is the issues weren't enough to render them unproductive. They did a lot of good work anyway.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, they did get a lot of stuff done this year.
Yeah.
All right. And my apologies. So I guess we're on to the next one, transportation.
Yeah.
What you got for us, sir?
Okay. So nothing crazy on that one. We have two voting items. We mainly covered. We mainly covered a couple things. First off, we had discussed an issue from the residents on Lefferts, close to Washington and Flatbush Avenues, where they were struggling with speeding. Long story short, the speed cameras there, the folks who were complaining had said that they checked the speed camera data and that the volume of tickets being issued was the same for years. So it's catching speeders, but it isn't reducing the speeding. So they want a speed bump. But Dante put a request in recently and he got notification that it was denied because of the speed cameras existence. You can't have both, you can have one or the other. Because we have a cap on the speed cameras, so just put them where speed bumps are, and that makes sense because there are two different tools for different situations. You put cameras where you expect people to go the speed limit or a little faster. Like on highways, on Flatbush Avenue, you put cameras, right? On the BQ probably has cameras somewhere. Right? You find cameras in more high speed areas where you don't want to slow traffic down. But you put speed bumps in more residential areas like these, not Nostrand, but like maybe President Street, Montgomery, etc. Those like sort of tier 1 residential streets. So the speed camera on Lefferts there is technically unsuitable. It's better to have a speed bump there instead. So the voting item is to replace or remove the camera, put a speed bump in instead, and also to add a few curbside treatments and pedestrian safety things. So like to replace the boards at the gas station at Lefferts in Washington and Flatbush, that BP gas station where the automatic toilet's going to be placed in the future. We want to put those boulders back there because cars frequently drive up and down the pedestrian ramps to get out of the gas station, which is not ideal. And to potentially add a curb extension on the Lefferts Avenue side so that when people are turning in off of Flatbush, it's a little bit visually narrower, and it wouldn't remove parking because there's a hydrant right there anyway. So it would be a pedestrian help and also wouldn't really take away a parking spot either. The other minor change we're also recommending is making sure that the light timings are different, because sometimes when people are coming down Flatbush and they make a left to turn into Lefferts, when you're coming down like southbounds and you just got off from where the zoo is and you're on the way down, people make that left to Lefferts, and sometimes when they get the green, the next green is also green, so they just start going fast down Lefferts when we kind of want them to transition to like residential block type speeds. So they might be doing 30, 32 on Flatbush. We don't want that on Lefferts. So the idea is to make that to just double check the light timing so that when they hit the first traffic light, if that's green, after the left turn, the next one's red, so they can stop and kind of readjust their speeds. That's the first item. The second one is for
Can I ask one question about the first
I mean, I'd
item?
be fine with that.
I believe that Lefferts has been asking for this speed bump for maybe a decade.
Mm-hmm.
Was there another reason that they rejected the speed bump besides the camera? Because I thought there was one other thing that they had said.
So it's a little bit cloudy
Okay.
because there's a bit of both. Sometimes they say it's a bad place for a speed bump because of there could be a fire truck route. And then other times when DOT engineers come, they say it's a great place for a speed bump. So you hear a bit of both.
Okay.
And most recently the answer was that the camera's there, so therefore the speed bump can't go in. So now we're officially saying take the camera out.
Okay.
If I could, I want to say, my memory's fuzzy. I also wanted to say that I thought at one point DOT said something, it was because of the width of the street.
That's what I
Yes,
thought it
that's what it
was.
is.
I thought
Yeah.
because it was too wide, they were saying
Yeah.
they couldn't do it at the speed bump.
If that's the case, they could also do
That
like
was 5 years ago.
they could also do if that's the case, they
Yeah.
could also do two like a mid block crossing with a sidewalk extension and put the bump there. It would narrow the street to the size where a speed bump could go in and it wouldn't be a problem. But I mean theoretically they could build them any size.
Or Philly uses speed pillows, which are smaller.
That would be the option if they have a fire truck
Not the
on
full width, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're
That-
size so that there's a driving lane over the pillow for emergency vehicles.
Oh,
yeah, and they
interesting.
have those on two-way streets as well. We have them on Park Street, I think, in Bushwick or whatever neighborhood. That's whatever neighborhood that is. It's close to like Broadway. They have one of those, and it's a wide two-lane street. They have those speed cushions, speed pillows there. Speed bumps can go on 2-lane streets. They can go on 3-lane streets.
Okay.
But in New York, I believe like our unique policy is that we generally don't put them on streets that are 2 lanes in the same direction. So if you have like
But Lefferts is not 2 lanes.
It's not. right,
Got it.
so that's the first voting item. The second voting item is we're looking to get a dismount bike sign for that bike lane termination on Ocean because right now it comes down on Flatbush. It's always been an awkward termination.
Yeah.
It just like goes into the sidewalk and then
Yeah.
disappears. And now the pedestrian space on the sidewalk is much more narrow because of the construction of the Ocean continuation of that bike lane. So people are essentially being like funneled into a smaller space where all the bikes are coming at them. And recently, someone on their bike crashed and flipped and hit somebody. So we've seen evidence of this being a problem, which we really shouldn't need in the first place. But someone got hurt. So now we're saying it's a very natural place for folks for people where they should dismount. It's a natural place to require people to dismount their bike because it's too awkward and too dangerous to keep riding it right there. People have no place to dodge these bikes. It doesn't make much sense without that. So we're looking to get a dismount bike sign.
Where is this located?
It's at the corner of it's at the intersection of Flatbush, Ocean, and Empire, where close
Oh,
to
at
where
Empire or at Parkside?
Empire.
Oh, Empire.
Empire.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that, okay.
Southwest corner, right?
It's
Southwest
No.
corner.
it's by the Wendy's.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That made it easy.
Thank you. By the windows.
People love that landmark. By the Wendy's, by the big welcome to Flatbush sign.
Should just live with that.
Trees, near the
I'm sure it
trees.
is. Yeah, by the trees. The opposite side of the street by the trees. Yeah.
Alright, so to the point though, it's like I think they're doing all that construction with the bike lane, is that going to be something that, does that affect that or?
I mean, the construction now makes it necessary.
So where do you want them to dismount? I'm confused.
Like when the bike lane enters the sidewalk,
Yeah.
that should be it. Walk it out.
And then what though?
And then perhaps like something more suitable maybe
Oh, I see.
as they go down.
Is this a temporary,
It should be temporary
Okay.
until the construction's over. Which shouldn't be much more than like maybe it should be a year.
Okay, well, with that being said then,
Maybe a temporary sign even, just like he bolts it up on the
Okay.
wall where they're constructing.
I don't even know, I'm not sure we can consider that. Dante? Dante?
Yeah.
Quick question.
Sure.
One of the things that the committee had voted on was, because of all the construction with the new bike lane over on, from Flatbush going into Ocean, they were saying it's a bike hazard because the bike lane comes onto the sidewalk at one point. Is it something you can actually make the request on behalf of the board to put a dismount bike sign there for safety temporary?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think we need to vote on that as a board. I think Dante can send that on behalf. That's a
Okay.
safety issue, I think you can do that.
Okay. Now one more item, and it was so there is in light of the Rochester Avenue redesign, because they didn't present it, they sent us the presentation, but we presented it to ourselves on our screen and we went through it because most of it is not in our district. But in light of that, we know that Eastern Parkway has a lot of accidents in that intersection with Rochester Avenue, which is at the edge of our district, right before the Lincoln Terrace Park begins. We're also looking at a change for that, because what happens often is that the way the lights are timed on Eastern Parkway, it causes a lot of cars to come at pedestrians when they don't expect it to. So the way that it's currently built is the through traffic that's going straight gets the green light, and then they get the red. And when they are stopped and they have the red, left turn traffic begins to turn left, right? But pedestrians cross at that time because they see the straight traffic come to a stop, they think they're good, and they start to cross, and then cars start to swing left, and they either brake very hard and cause people to rear end them, or they hit people, or people sort of scramble out of the way, and it causes a lot of issues because people will behave how they behave. They see traffic stop. Generally, all of New York does this. When they see cars stop coming, they begin to cross, and that's an intersection where that's kind of dangerous to do because people can't see the left turn signal. It doesn't face them, so they're looking at traffic and they see traffic stop and they cross, and then suddenly more traffic comes. The ask for right now was to have them either retime that light so the order is different, so maybe left turns go first and then straight goes after, so people actually have a break after traffic comes to them, or give pedestrians sort of a shorter dedicated crossing time in between when the through traffic stops and before the left turn traffic begins to drive. Either one of those could be a solution, but we're just looking at ways to sort of minimize those traffic incidents with people. That's what we're approving.
Okay, all right. Okay, so in terms of action items, I saw the first one was for Lefferts Avenue. The request for an actual speed hump or yeah,
It's
okay.
not always, speed hump in place of the speed camera. So we're gonna take the camera out and put that on.
All right. The only concern, okay, like I said, I think the conversation before was that they weren't able to put that. But I think we should make a request for them to. They need to do traffic calming because obviously if something's not working, they need to do something else.
Right.
Mayor says, are rumble strips perhaps an option?
Maybe.
Okay.
So this is mostly to address the retraction that Dante got. We're directly trying to address that head on and say, okay, last request said the camera was the issue, take the camera out. And then if that doesn't solve it, we'll continue figuring out what's in their toolkit and what they can pick. They're gonna pick something. But we're just trying to make sure that this is no longer an obstacle. We're not trying to expand the ask to anything else.
Okay. All right. My thought is we probably should bring in DOT, to the point where it's like whatever you're doing.
We walked it with DOT, with Commissioner Bray, with
Right.
Leora Branch, with Rita Joseph. The group of us walked it. they said it's a great place for a speed bump.
Okay.
Directly from
Speed bump?
Yeah,
Okay, so they said okay with
they said it was okay, and there was a UNC report that came out specifying it as a great place for a speed bump.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm just we're just saying if that's true.
Maybe all those people are gone and the new people are open-minded.
Maybe,
Speed
right?
humps everywhere.
Right. So we're just trying to
Yeah.
already head on and say take this out if that's the case.
Okay, alright, that's fine.
I hope these people get their speed bump. They've been wanting it for a long time.
I know Francesca asks
Yeah.
every year.
So
Okay.
long.
That one, I don't think we require a vote for that. Okay, well.
They want them to go on their end.
Yeah, okay, so let me ask this. So I think this is something that doesn't necessarily need to go before the board.
For what we
Let me ask this. Is there any objection from the executive committee to request the district manager to send a letter for this? Is there any? Dante, is that something you can do? Can you
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that we probably already have language or something like this.
Okay.
I got it too. I can send it to
They
you.
denied it like 20 times.
Okay, and then let's talk about that, or let's re-engage with them.
Yeah,
Well, his thing, I think that's the reason why I was saying that it needs to be a re-engagement, because, if we send a letter, they'll respond to the letter saying no. I think it's a matter of, we need the conversation. It's not about no, it's what are you gonna do to fix the problem?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can't do speed bump, tell me what you can do that is going to be effective and take care of this. But the letter going back and forth, they'll just respond, that we have to send another letter, and then they'll send another letter. No, get into a room. What can you do?
And also give us a general sense of what the guidelines are, so we don't.
No, they're on their
start-
website. They have manuals
okay.
for all these things that tell them that they can go and
Okay.
they can. When I meet with DOT, I often show them the room information and say, this is where you can put this. This looks fine. Is it not? And every time I've met with them and they're like, no, it's a good idea.
That's good.
And we talk about it. Sometimes it ends up being a thing they act on. Other times maybe it's a little slower, but generally, no, you can show them their own toolbox and their own guidelines and say, yeah, here, this is a spot. Let's put it here.
I think it's helpful for us to do that engagement. Speed humps, and I think a couple of the other things. I think we mentioned the pillows there, rumble strips essentially, but like give them 2 or 3 things and say,
Yeah.
so which ones can you do?
Like they respond really
As
well
opposed
to
to just saying no and just going on about your day.
they respond pretty well to showing them their own information.
Yeah.
They don't respond as well to asking them about what they can do because it just sounds like they don't know what you're talking about. Like you need to. It's either they're teaching you or you're collaborating with them.
All right, so that's fine. So I think we can. The exec, I think we just confirm that. So the district manager will take care of that. The dismount side, the district manager will take care of that as well. For the Rochester bike lane,
Not a bike lane.
I'm sorry,
Not
no, for the light.
Right.
I'm sorry.
I retired from those.
It's okay. So the timing of the lighting, we're saying, is what the request is, correct?
Huh?
So we're asking for a timing of the lights?
Yeah.
Okay.
A retiming, maybe a quick study, but generally just outline the issue. Yeah. Retiming.
All right, I think this is something Dante can do as well. Dante, will you be able to send a letter requesting conversation with the time?
Yeah. Either giving a pedestrian break in between through and left, or letting the left turns go first so pedestrians can actually cross.
All right, is there any objection or any questions from the exec? Okay, hearing none, Dante, so the referrals to go to Dante, the district manager.
Well, one and number 2. Number 3.
No, all of them, all 3 of those.
Roger?
What intersection was that?
Rochester and Eastern Parkway.
And Eastern Parkway.
Yeah. Did you hear it or did you come in after?
No, I heard it, I just didn't hear Eastern
Okay,
Parkway.
yeah, Rochester and Eastern Parkway.
Okay. All right, now there was a presentation that we did at the last month, so I think that has to come back.
Yeah, that does.
All right, so there are 2, there's a
That
proposal.
was the bus redesign standards. Yeah.
Correct.
For those who don't know, I met with our MTA liaison, Anthony Drummond, and he told me word for word that was the best idea he's ever heard a community board try to do. He said usually the way that it works is the MTA would make a bus redesign and then present it to the boards, and they'd all say they hate it and they'd start over, and they hate doing that. And it's about time boards start coming beforehand with sort of the standards we like to see them adhere to, so they can make the idea good. And he said that would likely have a great reception from the MTA. Personally, I'd like it for other boards around us to also adopt this and have it be sort of like a Brooklyn's voice kind of thing on this, but we'll see where that goes. But for now, at least our MTA folks think it's a good idea.
No, I think it's a great idea, it's a great step, and I think it kind of defines what we're looking for in these conversations. I think once the board is weighed in on this one and adopted, I think it's something that absolutely can be shared with definitely the neighboring boards will be receptive and perhaps with the borough board.
No, well, I have a suggestion on that because as a matter of fact, during the resource, I spoke to somebody on the board president office. The suggestion is to have at least 1 month, an hour before the board have all different committees like park recreation would meet 1 month, transportation meet 1 month, and to bring in all people from all the boards. I think that's a suggestion. She said she's gonna take it to Caroline, hopefully that's something you can have. What that could share, something like that, would just create the atmosphere for, yeah, everybody's gonna be there for the board anyway.
Right.
Come in an hour early, have some drink, something, and then have the board.
An hour early. Well, I'm not worried about it.
Because I know most people get 6 o'clock, unless they wanna give the time in the board to do it, but for that designated month.
I think that's an excellent idea.
No.
I mean, the other possibility is they give regular trainings. If they're willing to do some of those hybrid, people can come in and then, you know, while they're there, they have a chance to network.
That makes sense.
Alright. Okay, alright, so I think we covered those action items and we'll have that proposal will be on the agenda for the vote.
Alright.
Okay. Alright, thank you very much for those 2 reports.
You're welcome.
Alright,
I can relax.
next victim, I mean Chair.
Before we get slip, huh?
Last meeting, gals, you were over.
Environmental protection, nothing.
Plus, you were nervous over here.
That was a good consistency right there, good. Parks, do we have anything?
Well, I just wanna cover a little bit, I didn't get a chance to get the minutes together, but I just wanna cover a few things that we had at our last meeting. And it's what we were hoping to do a little bit in the summer, hopefully next year will be a lot more better. So we're planning to see if we could do planning for the whole year. And hit the ground running in September. To that end, proposal was made, we have a couple of the community garden has offered a couple of dates where people wanna come, this is not an official meeting, we could come back together. What's the other word, bring some food, bring some thing, and then we will start thinking about that. There's one date in July or in August, but when I finish the meeting, when I finish the minutes, we'll get that by the general board meeting. We had a visit from Botanical Garden, Director for Community Engagement, and it's been more than 2 years that he showed up. As again, he was not that satisfactory. He came up and just wanted to talk about what they are doing, and I think we are pushing for basically to see how the community could be a little more involved in the community garden. And I think the response we got, we didn't like it too much. He said, well, we're a non-profit corporation, we're not a city agency. So he was kind of a little, say, hey, he said there's a board of trustees, they decide everything. We said even for observation times, we have to get. So that was some more or less the tone of that presentation. So hopefully we could find a way to get this thing, especially now that he told us they're getting a new Penelope left.
Right, getting it.
So we gotta see what's gonna happen, and I think we should, unlike PPA, or even the short interaction we had with the Brooklyn Museum. Those things, they were a lot more welcoming in getting the community somewhat involved. So I think this is something we should start for next year to push it. So that's the thing I like to report. Let me see what else I want to talk about.
The vote to put meetings online.
Say that again?
To put meetings online, have it count,
Which one?
so that our members who,
Oh, no.
for health reasons or whatever reasons,
Oh,
who
no,
can't
I see
physically
what
meet.
you're saying, yeah. I mean, there's a big push in this community, so we'll have hybrid meetings.
Yeah.
This is something we definitely was spoken more than one meeting. And let's see, my notes is, and I would follow up some of the stuff we've been trying to do. Hopefully by the summer we'll be able to work on, starting to work the mechanics for Sports Summit, Music and Arts Summit, and the historical maker project. And I think one of the person from that came to the board was interested, and I think we have to do the reach out to her. When the Delta showed up, they might be interested in working, so that is something we have to follow up. But hopefully by the time September will around, we'll have some planning done in the summer. Our goal is really, hopefully by next summer, we'll have activities in every park. But I've noticed there is organization that are planning activities in the park, yet they're not telling us about it. There's a lot of non-profit activities that are picking up a crowd. I think they go straight to the park department, but they don't tell us anything about it.
They probably do. I mean, I know that the board would be advised if it was a street permit.
No, I'm
What
talking
park
about
says that?
inside the park.
And that's the thing, yeah, that goes
Park.
directly to the
I've seen,
park.
I live in a block where there's a park.
Yeah.
Different of the FinCom store.
Yeah.
A legislator will come, they'll do something, the politician will come, they'll do something. And some non-profit will come out, give some money, they bring them into the park, but we're not involved. We would love to see different activities in every park and playground. And I think one of the initiatives we should start is for every park and playground to have a friends of. We only have one park I know that have friends of, which is Wingate Park. But I think we should go ahead and try to encourage people to develop friends of Hamilton Mets Park, friends of Dodger Playground, friends of Jackie Robinson. So those, if we move for those initiatives, I'd be good. And my other suggestion is that I would encourage these people that for friends to become part of the park education committee. What? Yeah. That's the thing of the report I went on the board now.
No, I mean, a lot to definitely discuss. I think that, I think your point about the planning for the year is well taken. And I think it's something, it's a recommendation for all the committees. I know sometimes it's a little bit harder. Sometimes it's also complicated by, a lot of board members and committee members go to the four winds for the summer. They leave from the district or for the board. I don't know why. But having those conversations.
One last thing I want to talk about when you get finished.
Oh, sure. I mean, but absolutely, that's something I think we should look at. I do appreciate the fact that you approached BBG. I think it's important for us to really create those partnerships. And you're absolutely right. I mean, and their point is taken. They're not a city agency, so they're not obliged. But that means it's more incumbent for us to be seen as partners in terms of the way we engage. We are people who are patrons. We are supporters, and we want to see how we can best make sure we're supporting these institutions as well. So that, I'm very happy with the work that you've done with BBG, PPA as well, and, the Brooklyn Museum as well. And I think just that engagement. And I want everybody to think about that in your respective spheres, what kind of engagement that looks like. Hybrid meetings.
I want to bring two more things. To complete your statement, Mel Evers also.
Absolutely.
They're not doing that. I mean, we're not engaging them.
Oh, yes,
So
absolutely.
I think, and I'm talking about the Art Summit. I think I already had approached the president at our town hall. We would love to do something with them regarding the art their application.
Now with Medgar is a little bit more nuanced because there's probably a couple of different areas that they can actually help with. Because they have the Du Bois Bunch Center, they do a lot of stuff with housing.
Right.
There is the school itself, which is, and they were actually present at the Educators Forum for the Youth Services and Education Committee. There's so many different touch points that I think that's good. I think, I don't want us to have several conversations. I think we would want to think about when we get them in the room, what do we want to speak to them about in terms of where we can collaborate and where we can push, help them, improve their agenda, where we can be a support to them, and how we can actually, extend, hopefully extend their reach in the community as well. So that's a little bit more nuance because it's a much bigger chunk in that sense.
Last thing I like to say, I think most of this planning requires money. And I haven't heard nothing this year about friend of CB9, the non-profit.
Right.
We have to be able to get that really taken out so we could raise some money to get some of these activities done.
Yeah.
Because I know when we look at our budget, it will barely cover the salary of people that are working in this office.
Absolutely.
Is there a set amount of money that goes to each community board from the city? Or do we need to make requests?
There is the regular budget that every city community board makes. And Dante, just catch me if I go wrong. Additionally, you will have council members who will make allocations towards community boards as well. So they may have your board as a line item budget on theirs, and they'll commit a few $1,000s for certain, just in general, you spend that. Or they may underwrite certain activities that your board does. So
Okay.
the community fair, I would love to see that be underwritten one year. Or if there's something that Parks is doing, that should be an underwrite. So as we're continuing as a board, that might be the thing where we need to consider. There's going to be an engagement period where we should be talking to them early in terms of saying, these are the dollar amounts. So for just use Councilmember Joseph's, you account for X percentage of our district. We would like to see be an item on your budget for a certain amount of money. Have the conversation. What we think is reasonable in terms of what we're trying to do a program. Same thing for Councilmember Hudson's office, and the same thing for Councilmember Neely's. But yeah, we should be able to think about
People
numbers.
at the state level, because BBG said they got all kind of money.
Absolutely. Now, here's where it also gets a little bit. There'll be more conversations that have to happen in terms of the way the money can get spent, because if it comes directly to the board, I think there might be some, in how it gets spent, there might be some city rules that come into that as well, which may affect. Going to your point about Friends of, those are usually private organizations, private corporations that are purpose driven for whatever they're supporting. There's a little bit more freedom in that, but with that being said, you also want to make sure that they're structured appropriately, they're able to take the money in, they're able to account for it appropriately, that the board members are able to are fiduciaries, that'll fundraise actively for these things. They're equipped, they know what they need to do. Because as much as they're great ideas, I've seen a lot of them go defunct or have issues. CB9, similarly, it's like, we've had challenges with Friends of CB9, which has existed off and on for a number of years. So it's just a matter of, not that it's a bad idea, but we just want to think about when we set it up, what is the purpose, and how do we make sure it's sustainable and it's really responding to everything we're trying to do as a board. I have no answers at this point, but I think those are conversations that we want to continue to expand.
Last conversation was years ago.
Right, yeah. Last piece about hybrid meetings, the one that I'll say about that is that I was going to mention that during my chairman's report. Hybrid meetings are something that we're looking at. I would love to see us embrace the technology more. The state did extend the hybrid meeting statute for the open meetings law, so that's been extended for another 2 years.
Oh.
Now, with that being said, it's a good and a bad thing, because I'm not happy about that either, because the way that statute currently works, there's some ambiguities, or at least some issues. There's some issues that I've had with it, that I think a number of other chairs have had, where to do that effectively, you still have to have a quorum present in the place where you are. One of the things becomes, you want to make sure it doesn't become a situation, if there's board members who legitimately can't come, okay, you understand that. But also the other piece becomes, okay, well, how many people say, okay, well, I consistently have to come in while other people consistently don't have to come in? Or what makes, if I have an issue this month, but I'm the one who would make quorum, or I would have been quorum that month, or me not being there means we don't have quorum, and who allows for those things and everything like that. I think there are a number of things that need to be worked out. So I have been an obstacle to that one. I'll say that up front, because I want to.
So have I.
Yeah.
Because it's a disaster. The state law is a
It's
disaster.
I
I tell you all the time, no. For this reason, right? Like
There's a
it's
certain amount of
impossible
administrative,
to get through
things that
this
you have to do
loophole.
with that as well. So not that it's not something we're opposed to, but I think there's some more conversations that need to happen. Probably, some change that needs to come in.
I thought the question is, if you do, I think I do with the idea you have to have a quorum present in person, but the ability, if let's say 1 or 2 people, after the quorum has been met, the ability of a person that's not there to be able to vote. I think that's the question.
I want to
This is
see.
not allowed.
I have to check.
I believe that if the individual is not going to be in person, they have to serve notice to the board office that they're not going to be in person, and they have to provide an address to which could be public. So if they plan on doing that at their house, they have to provide their address because it's a public meeting. Understand
Yes.
what I'm saying? So when people come along and say, we want to do hybrid, you all are gonna say,
You know,
Oh,
I didn't know that.
know.
We didn't think it was that complex.
It is-
Yeah,
it is very much
It's not
that-
Nicholas, it's really the committee that wants it.
But it's the state law that
Yeah.
is just it's poorly written.
Yes.
That like literally it's poorly written
Oh, they were
to where it would make someone in this room have to decide, is someone who needs to go to a doctor's appointment, that situation more important than a mother taking care of her kids? Can anyone make that decision in here? No, and no one would want to, right?
So,
Exactly.
So I mean,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, the hybrid thing, as someone who does them a lot and like makes the setups, they can be expensive. First off, because we're talking about audio going out and coming in from the person, and video going out and coming in and all that. And it still doesn't solve the core problem, which is that nobody in that moment wants to be there in person. A better approach would generally be just having maybe like a quarter of the meetings being would be virtual. Like let's say out of the 10 meetings we have, 3 can be fully remote. That would be a better way, because I think in a lot of these cases, like the hybrid is just kind of the worst of both worlds, right? Nobody wants to actually be there. We'd rather be doing it remotely at that moment, and it ends up having a situation where it's a fairness thing, when it's like I'm always there. Can I get my chance to be remote? And somebody else is saying that they need to be remote. So it's an issue in that regard too, because it can't solve the core of all the issues. I think we're better off finding a way to be remote some of the time to kind of like fill out that problem.
And the borough board, at the borough board level, we had actually voted on a resolution that we sent to the legislature, which really kind of talked about that, where it's like, listen, you know, there are just sometimes, and just realistically speaking, we experienced that there was a storm. And we had a board meeting that was scheduled the next day. Do you really expect to call people out in the middle of January? It's already dark, it's sloppy, and it's everything else. You're gonna force people to come in. There are just certain times, sometimes there's just certain conditions on the ground, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense to just tell everybody, stay in place where you are at, you can fully participate remotely. We don't have to drag out board members, we don't have to drag out residents, we don't have to drag out officials. You can do it virtually.
Yeah.
It also makes it a little bit easier too, because if someone's online, you know, do they put their hand up? Do they say sounds? Do they like press the raise hand button? Like it's remote. Voting can be more universal if it's remote as opposed to hybrid. So it's just a little. It isn't just discussion, so it makes it a little bit more difficult there too.
I mean, listen, you know, the one thing I'll say is that, you know, as a board, we successfully navigated.
Yeah, COVID,
True. You know, it was different. I'm not saying it was perfect, no. But I think we will successfully navigate it. We were able to have perhaps even more participation. That's from what we were able to do. People didn't have to come out.
People
We
didn't
didn't
come out,
have
and everybody
conversations. We were able to do a few things differently, so that was I'm sorry?
So I had a comment. So thank you, Nicholas. Nicholas is really communicating what our committee has brought to him a few times actually. But it was more to be inclusive. I think that's why it was brought up so many times. And maybe even borderline discriminating against people who can't make it here but want to. I know there was an instance or a few instances where I had to travel, but Nicholas sent me the link. So guess who was in our committee meeting, because Nicholas made sure to remind me and send me the link. But suppose other people, and we do have other members of our committee who are right here and they just can't make it, but they still want to feel like they're a part of the Community Board 9 and a part of the committee. I think that's really where this is coming from. Why? I don't think it's laziness. I think maybe health reasons.
No, we're not assuming that.
Okay.
We're definitely not assuming.
Okay.
But I mean, it's just a matter of
We
making
really
sure that there's a
go
way
for
that's
virtual, one
consistent.
time the hybrid. I agree.
I mean, I think
Oh, that's what so it's full virtual versus hybrid?
No, it's not.
Oh.
like, yeah, it's
What is it?
hybrid. The rules currently that we're working under are like hybrid, but they're very constrained. So it's
Right, they got rules to.
and I think we're saying virtual would be better.
That doesn't already
And-
get it for.
And the limitation, like I would expect that it would just be, it wouldn't be all year. But having a few times to pick that virtual card would be, I think, a great start.
I believe to have a fully remote meeting, you have to have an emergency declaration.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, right,
Right.
right, because it was
And
emergency
entity.
COVID.
No, yeah, I know.
Just to FYI, so
I'm just
so
saying,
everyone
that
understands
that could
that.
be part of
This
the
is
law.
good. We had
And,
a lot
and
of-
separately, let me say this as well. Separately, this is something that we can, the board can discuss with the district manager. There are reasonable accommodation rules as well. So I mean, if we need to implement those. There are conversations we can do with that. I want to be careful, but I want us to be thoughtful about it because there are, if you open the box, then it's like, okay, well, how far do you go with that as well? If you want to recognize legitimate issues, okay, fine, that's one thing. But if you want to recognize, well, I'm on vacation, but I want to attend the meeting. Do you say yes? Do you say no? So we're all cold in New York, but I'm attending from sunny Cancun.
No, I was working,
But we
y'all.
all-
I was working
No,
outside of the US.
No,
I
not
was
you.
working.
No, this is not you. And this is not to single anybody out. What I'm just saying is we want to consider all the ramifications as we're talking about that as well. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sue.
So have you guys talked to New York City Court Counsel about this? Because I know that the City Planning Commission does hybrid all the time. And it's generally for purposes of allowing the public to participate. Because as you say, there are a lot of people whose participation we want, but they can't come in, they have kids, whatever, they're disabled. But even the commission members sometimes join by video, I've noticed, and so I'd be very surprised if there's a requirement that they be like
The
zooming
water
in from
board does require one.
a public address. So you might wanna ask court counsel what rules they are or are not required to comply with. That's one thing. I understand, I'm fine with the idea that committee members need to have an in-person quorum because there are people that committed to this, but maybe as a start to allow the public to come in virtually so we can figure out the technology, especially for larger meetings. Like we've had a couple of those town halls where we were hybrid virtual and just wanted to kind of throw that out there because I occasionally get meetings that are too big for this room.
Well, and just to that point as well, and we need to move on. But the other piece of that too is, and I think one of the things we did put in the borough hall, the borough board recommendation is, the city and the state need to put money into this as well.
Yeah.
Because there is an investment, in infrastructure you have to put in here. You have to have, certain, like for example, it would be very difficult for us to say we can support a hybrid meeting over at MS61. Because that means a certain equipment we would have, or wouldn't be able, we would have to bring ourselves. This means there's a quality of internet we might need to have. So some facilities may be X'd out because it's like if they don't have the infrastructure support that you couldn't do it anyway. So there are a couple of other things we would need to figure out. There might be some resources they'd have to give to boards or any entities like that, so that way you can support that. There might be some AV support they need to do. Might be additional, other kinds of resources that they have to do to support it. This is not just something to say that, it's an unfunded mandate where, yeah, you can do it, but go figure it out yourselves. Because a lot of boards don't necessarily have the resources to support them. But it's a question we should bring up, and I think, as we're, I want to say that I think I'm very proud of CB9 that we've led the way in a lot of different areas. So this is something we should continue to lead the way in terms of how do we act and function as a government agency in the 21st century.
Are there Brooklyn boards that are doing this now? Maybe we can ask them how they do it.
Virtual, there are two.
Well,
We do a virtual.
None of them are functioning like we are. When we had the meeting with Prospect Park Alliance, they were like, Community Board 9 is awesome. So we have set the bar essentially for the other community boards. So I guess it's something that we might have to initiate and they will follow.
But a lot of boards in Brooklyn do have virtual committee meetings. They don't do virtual general, but a lot of them do virtual committees.
Well, let's be careful. I don't want to snitch on anybody.
I'm not saying which ones. I'm just saying.
Let me say this piece, and then we do need to move on.
Yes.
There was a point after we did do that. We tried that where we did allow, because to the point where committee meetings are not binding. The recommendations are not binding. The board meetings are what's binding on the board. Those are the formal decisions. So we had our meetings for the board in person, and we allowed for committees to be virtually because we felt hopefully that would be easier. I got a call into the borough president's office saying, stop it. Which is the reason why we don't do that. And that's part of the reason why I want to make sure, okay, fine, let's create mechanisms where we can do this reasonably. Because it was stupid that we can't. But I just say that, just to reiterate, you'll see different things happening in different portions of the city.
Yeah.
Not all of them, I'm sure, would pass muster or pass
Right.
scrutiny
Right.
if somebody calls attention to that.
Gotcha.
But let's keep moving forward. Let's figure out how to do it better. Okay. All right. Parks. So then we're
I'm
there's no
done.
actions, correct?
I
Okay.
have no.
Action items?
But, I'm sorry, if I could reclaim my time for a second, I should have
Sure.
mentioned one issue for the environment committee.
Yes.
The requirement for city-issued trash containers for 1 to 9 family homes has been pushed back to September from June. So the enforcement has been delayed until at least September. And I heard a week or so ago that the vendor that they had engaged to provide those containers has declared bankruptcy.
Yeah, they're not available.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've tried to
So-
get them.
so whether or not that pushes back that requirement or deadline for enforcement further remains to be seen. Because that's a recent development, but
You can't buy
So-
them anywhere, not even Home Depot.
Yeah.
I went to a few, they're not available in Home Depot, I'm like, so what's gonna happen? They're just gonna take it
So
very
the board should be aware of that, so they hear from their.
Help don't take it.
Can I ask you-
Recycle bins.
Can I ask a question? My first compost bin got eaten through by a squirrel, so I bought another one for
Yeah.
however many dollars, and it's now being eaten. I poured like cayenne pepper all over the top to hope
Oh,
it stops
wow.
it, but they chew right through it. Am
What's
I
the
the
name of
only
squirrels?
one with the squirrel
I don't
problem?
even have one.
Huh?
I need to use the neighbors.
We gotta buy
Brown
some.
bin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, no, I don't
Eat through?
That's a
Wow.
I can imagine
I'm like
rats that
kind of
eat through it.
overbuying
What?
these.
The Caribbean brown squirrel loves peppers.
I don't know what else to do.
Why do you call the manufacturer?
That's
You
wild.
can find out how can you make it your
From the city?
school proof, yeah. Find who's the
For the
manufacturer,
schools
is
to
like,
buy through them soaking
There's
rats.
probably
Soaking rats,
Rats,
soaking
right.
raccoons,
Yeah.
probably.
what I'm doing in
But
my
I can't
backyard
imagine I'm
for
the
the
only
squirrel.
one who's had a squirrel.
Because they
I
eat
think
all
we did the right thing by
bugs
buying it.
that my
Yeah.
wife is planting.
warranty.
They keep
And then I
going
had to
in there,
throw
you
it
put the
away.
bugs in, within a day they're all gone.
Bags.
So
Love
we
it,
found
yeah.
some kind of a netting that we put over the plant when it's on Zippo, and that's what's keeping them away.
What was that?
The
Repeat
netting.
that? You put a net over?
Yeah, like you say, I have a box, a plant box or a container. I have a plastic, a net, you could buy that from Home Depot, you put it right on top of the plant. That keeps them away. So
Oh,
maybe you could wrap up that container in that kind of plastic, it's.
would the garbage man wanna keep taking that net off?
Yeah.
No, I'm not, that's what I'm, yeah. I don't know. But this
I could
is
see
just
them
how I
finding me for something like that.
But that's why I know they could coat that
I mean, they're not
plastic
gonna
with
like
some
it
kind
with
of,
a hole in it
swell when we
either.
cut it. So you never know.
You must have really good food there.
I must. My scraps must be really
Yeah.
tasty.
Okay. Alright, so listen, so I wanna get us back into order, because I know we started late, and I know these are very engaging conversations, but, we'll take that one offline, we'll see what we can do, we can discuss with that.
Okay.
Even
Alright,
though bankrupt, they gotta buy more.
but as long as we're on this side, you got anything for,
Sure. We just basically reviewed the year. This year we did one mixer in November or December, and then we did the scavenger hunt in April. The feedback was maybe we can do 2 mixers, one like right off the bat in October or something, and then one in February, right before the scavenger hunt. So people remember what we talked about before. It seemed like there was too big of a break between the 2 events that we did last year. But and then the only other feedback that we got was people wanted the scavenger hunt to be a little bit longer. So we're thinking maybe next year we would do it for a month. Because they were like, it's over already, I didn't even get to do it, and by the time they realized that it was over, it was only 2 weeks, which we thought was a long time, but anyway, that was the one feedback that we got a lot. But that was it. It was a good year.
I thought it was great, the scavenger hunt was great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It
Other
was.
people were copying it.
Yes,
I
they
heard
were.
somebody asked me to send them the file so they could do some school wanted to do something, and I was like, yeah, sure, here we go. So that's good.
Yeah.
Glad people are getting like excited. And
Maybe we should do a scavenger hunt for the parks and garden patrol.
that would be fun.
Find this park.
Yeah, find this spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
We
can
have
like
the map, we have everything.
hide
Like
something.
different
Hide
You could do a
Especially for the playground, you could get the kids involved.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah. It was fun for kids, especially. I found
Yeah.
a lot of families did it together.
We had a lot of kids come to the office to.
Oh yeah. Cute.
Yeah, it was good.
That's a great idea,
Love
one
it, love it.
activity in the park, yeah.
The one thing maybe you might want to do for the parks is they were like, well, when we get there, then what do we do? Like, was there a question to answer or like a scavenger to find? They wanted like once they got to the space. So if they got to a park, maybe they'd want to like, what is there a statue of in this park? And then you
No,
write.
you give them clues. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when they
With
did
businesses.
Where's Waldo?
Yeah,
Do you
with
remember
the
that? Put a
bookstore.
Waldo or something.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that
the
was
kids
really
would like
good.
come in and look everywhere. Super cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Okay, great.
Fantastic. No action items, but thank you
Nothing.
so much to you and your committee for all the work you're doing. It's
Yeah.
great work, fun work. Really appreciate that. Okay. Euler.
Okay, so we do have an action item that was laid over from last month.
Yes.
It's the update to our zoning framework to add a section about fair share and a section about environmental review. Do I need to go over it or?
No, I think it was presented last month, so we'll just make sure.
So we'll make sure that we present it again. And
Correct.
you know, again, these are things that don't exist in the law currently, but we would like it to. We want it to be part of our calling card to the elected officials. And these are things that have really affected our district over time, and a lot of our committee members have complained about. So we would appreciate your support on this one. We had a meeting with 141 Montgomery, which is a new development that's coming on the corner of Montgomery and Franklin. It's kind of surrounded by the 54 Crown lot, but it's actually a piece of city-owned land dating back to 1997. And it was originally transferred to a nonprofit in 1997 with an agreement to rehabilitate or build new affordable housing. Nothing happened. In 2014, it was transferred to a new nonprofit, Asian Americans for Equality. They came before us today. Apparently, they also did nothing. And then there was the Franklin Avenue rezoning in 2019 that kind of went into effect late because of the lawsuit. And then 54 Crown is built now, and so then they started having conversations with Councilmember Hudson in 2023, and then I don't know, whatever, they were talking, and now they're coming to us. And apparently they have to use some sort of, like ELR process for the city to reacquire the land because the old agreement expired and reconvey it to them. The bottom line is it's going to be 100% affordable housing. It'll be under the new Franklin Avenue zoning, which is tall, it's for 17 stories. And so they're proposing AMIs between 50% and 80%, which 50% is like 76,000 for a household of 3, 80% I think is 120,000 for a household of 3. It's 93 units. 14 are set aside for formerly homeless. I think there's also 10% set aside for military veterans. It's a new law apparently. And 5% set aside for mobility impaired, although they intend to make at least 10% of the units disability accessible. And then there's also going to be a community facility space, which they are planning on taking for themselves. They provide social services for like homeless and supportive housing clients to help them find housing. So I think basically that a lot of the questions were around parking. They're planning on providing parking because zoning doesn't require any parking for affordable units, and since this is 100% affordable, they're not slated to have any parking. But a number of, committee members wanted to see at least some parking units, particularly for, if you're having units for the disabled people, they might need to drive. What else? District 35 land use framework, which is Councilmember Hudson's framework, is in her district. She wants to see like certain design principles, open space, better than MIH, which of course this would be, subject
Disability and something.
disability, ADA accessibility, pest management, some type of project labor agreements, which in this case, they're not doing union labor, but they have agreed to reach out to the local community about hiring local people to work on this.
That's what we're covering for them, living wage for them too. There's a living wage requirement too as part of the framework, right?
There might be, I don't know in this case what living wage means because under the city's tax break, they're not, that would apply buildings below 99 units that are outside of like Manhattan core don't have to comply with living wage. So it's not clear to me if they will. So people were asking, about the AMIs. I think there are definitely people on the committee who want to see lower AMIs, like 40% of AMI. People were wondering like what happened for 30 years. Did you do any environmental remediation? Because it's a former industrial site, I believe. And HPD was sort of like, well, maybe there were some legal issues around what the original agreement said. But I guess we don't really know. What else? It was quite a long discussion.
How about
It's all
that
in the
the
minutes.
plot is just too small to make any money on? I mean, it's
Well,
tiny.
it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit.
So
And also,
Well,
Yeah, and
nonprofit
it's-
doesn't mean that they build
the
and
land
don't
is-
make any profit.
Well, so the land was granted to them for free. They're getting financing by HPD's new construction finance program, which requires them to pay back at the end of 30 years, and the interest is deferred until then as well. So originally they said it was all the units were permanently affordable, but the way this program works, really at the end of the 30 years, they would need to renew that loan in order to maintain the affordability, kind of like, and so it really depends on whether at that future time, government is willing to renew these loans. But the units that do remain permanently affordable are the mandatory inclusionary housing units, so that would be probably either 25 or 30% of the units. And they're also applying for the low-income housing tax credits, which I'm not entirely sure whether that's a grant or a loan, but it looks like it's quite a sizable subsidy. But they're intending to do community outreach over the summer. So that was another question we asked HPD. When you go through this ULERT process and you're selecting a developer, how does it work? And they said normally it would be by competitive RFP, but although it's not required, they have committed to doing extensive community outreach in situations where they're selling city-owned land or acquiring land for the city. So they're gonna reach out to a bunch of different community groups over the summer, the Ebbets Field tenants, Crown Heights Tenants Union, we told them, First Baptist Church, we also told them, like Full Gospel, Church. And they're gonna come back to us in the fall. And then the ELERT process, which will be a 60-day combined review for the borough president and the community board, followed by a 30-day city council review. ELERT doesn't, and let me just say, because we talked a lot about ELERP and why we didn't like the charter amendments. ELERP doesn't work exactly the same way for everything. In this case, because it's affordable housing and it's the city acquiring land, the city council reviews it. When it's private land, the city council does not review it. It just goes straight to the city planning commission, and the planning commission reviews it, and then that's it. So just to put that out there. But we definitely appreciate that HPD and developers came to us very early and that they're doing extensive community outreach.
So what are they asking for? Is this sort of as of right, or are they asking for some sort of?
I don't believe they're asking for zoning changes, because it was already rezoned in 2019. But this is just because it's kind of technical in a way. This nonprofit already owns the land, but because the previous agreement, I think had expired, had to be terminated, they're coming back to us. And I think just, more to the point, they want to do the community engagement to find out, like what AMIs we're looking for. I think they definitely heard that people were looking for parking, and they said, we'll try to do that. But one of the issues is that a lot of these affordable housing programs don't subsidize, they don't cover non-residential space. But like the term sheets basically kind of say they don't normally cover non-residential space. So if this is an ask, I think they heard us loud and clear, and they said we'll see what they can do. So
This is Franklin and Montgomery.
yeah,
All right,
It's in between
thank you
the
for the
loaded,
report.
which is 3.
We have the one action item from last month, so that'll come onto the agenda for this month. Questions from the exec for the land use,
Hey, how are people asking for parking that is not subsidized and asking for a lower AMI tier? That sounds contradictory, because creating parking costs money. It's a really small lot, it might hold 4 cars max. And we're also asking them to make it even cheaper. Usually those things cancel out, especially in a case where the parking is not even subsidized. How is,
it's not
Did anyone-
clear to me from reading the term sheets of the financing program, it's not entirely clear to me what can and cannot be covered. Because the thing is, they're digging, like parking normally goes in the basement, right? And so they are having other things that are not necessarily subsidized. Like, it depends on what they define as residential space, right? Because normally anything in this, under zoning code, anything in the cellar is not residential space. But they're doing a cellar anyway, they're putting a gym, they're putting storage lockers, they're putting bike parking spaces. So, like, my suggestion to them was maybe look at using the gym and the storage units and putting a few parking spaces in there, particularly for the disability accessible apartments, because a lot of times in these new buildings, people don't really use the gyms. They're kind of sad, and then Prospect Park's right there, and Bedford Armory is there, and so. But these are trade-offs for the community to consider. They're going to have their conversations with a whole bunch of people, hopefully, and hear what people want. I don't think it's going to. They're not putting any units in the cellar for sure. So, and I don't think they're not considering not doing a cellar. That answers the question.
Do they have any idea how many square foot the units would be?
They did say they did.
Yeah.
The studio, the 1 bedroom?
The studios are going to be 300 to 350 square feet. The 1 bedroom's like 550 square feet, and the 2 bedrooms, I think, like 700-ish, which is definitely on the small side. That was definitely a comment that we got. But those are like the minimums that are prescribed by the financing program that they're using.
other members of the exec, any questions? Other board members? Any questions? Okay, hearing none, thank you very much for the report. Okay, housing, do you have anything?
Excuse me, yes, basically what we did. We did do what everyone else has mentioned where we sat and looked at the previous year and what we did, and as well as moving forward, what we would like to do. We definitely still wanna do a housing, forum, or, I can't ever remember the word, a housing meeting where everyone comes.
The town hall.
Thank you, don't know why I can't, that word is stuck, not in my vocabulary, but we would like to do a town hall, so we're looking to see when we would do that, how we would do that, but also asking other committees to discuss it with us, because housing isn't just a housing committee issue. Also, yeah, we tried to do like month by month what we would like to do, like the different topics that we would like to cover in the coming year, because it's not that far ahead, it's here basically. No, it's not here because I'm gonna enjoy the time off. But we also, what we did is that we had a conversation with the executive director of Housing and Family Services of Greater New York. His name is Larry Johnson. We couldn't get him on the Zoom because his tech wasn't there to help him. So we invited him back for next year. I spoke with him afterwards. He said he's already started looking for next year, like is putting things on his calendar, so maybe in October. So we weren't sure if he would like to come just to the committee, or maybe he said he could do a quick presentation to the board, but maybe the committee might be better, and maybe even invite him to the town hall. What they do is that they just help tenants, and they help tenants with the different issues that they're having in their home, with their buildings. And we asked whether or not he deals with volunteers or who's working with him. And he said that once tenants get involved, that's all he needs, is because they start organizing and doing things that have to be done.
Are they like legal services or?
Legal services, they don't necessarily go to court with people because they don't have lawyers there, but they do give them the information that they need once they go to court or are going to court. That was it.
Well, that's good, thank you very much for that. Questions from
Yeah,
Janice? Go ahead.
My question is, for the housing, are there any planning in doing presentation regarding deed thefts within
That's
the
one of the
area?
things that, like,
In addition to
Yes.
that, how about, and this is something, actually, this is a subject that me and so much here. Who are NHS advised to do workshops on, for small landlords regarding construction next to their house or within that block. So because I know we're running out of space within the area, it's not any place to do that, but what's happening is that, I have a 2-level brownstone, I'm gonna put 2 on top. That's happening all over Brooklyn and East Flatbush. Some of them look really bad. You can't tell the difference between the original house and what's on top. Some look very similar. But that affects especially the people with the thatch houses. That affect their foundation, that affect the convenience of the construction and all that stuff.
Heating.
Which
Oh,
one?
yeah.
Heating.
Yeah.
I was talking earlier,
I
my
mean-
heating bill tripled.
Yeah, they
Because-
messed up people's roofs.
The investor next door, they had a stop work order, so it's vacant and there's no heating, which forces me to have to heat run my boiler longer.
Yeah, I think this is something, I know housing's been looking at mostly renters. We gotta also have to look into the small landlords. Some of them are suffering.
No, and NHS is definitely improved, that's great. They've been
I've spoken
fantastic.
to them about it because that was the reason I started to
They
get
do a
involved
lot
because
to
I had construction next
Property
door.
owners, small property owners, they do
That's right.
management programs, they do training for people who have property, so they'll show you how to do a lot of stuff.
Right.
They're great.
So I forgot to say, we had HPD in, so we also did ask them about, some of the rules for these smaller homes. They're doing new rules for basement apartments, like legalization of basement apartments. Apparently they're not quite ready yet, but they said that they could come back in the fall. I asked them if they'd be willing to do like a town hall or something, so maybe that's something we can do jointly. I also sent them your way, said, to do like an affordable housing 101 for like all of the different affordable housing financing programs, because there's a lot of them. They have different types of terms, so like which one is being used that controls the AMIs, it controls like sometimes what size they're going for, and all kinds of things like that, like how much is market rate, how much is affordable, etc. So they've agreed to do something in the fall, and we can coordinate.
That's one of the things I think in the town hall we'd like to do, because it's more of, if we had a town hall, people would just move from place to place, because we
Yeah.
didn't wanna do something in the office because it just wouldn't be.
Well, so
enough
the
space.
Affordable Housing 101 would not be so much for the public. It's not like, okay, this is how you can apply to a housing lottery. It'd be more like, this is how these financing programs work, so that we as a board know what are the resources and what are the tools in terms of like what can be, when there is an opportunity for new development, what can be done, and then I did also ask city planning to go over some of the rules for lower density housing, Nicholas, so that might, and they weren't ready to do that, but, maybe again, we can have them come back in the fall, or, he also offered to put together like something in writing, and, cause there are, like opportunities, and there are different types of zones where that let somebody add to their house, but maybe require certain setbacks or, something like, so we can have them go over those types of rules if that's something that people are interested in.
Right, any other questions for us? All right, and I definitely wanna make sure I take the opportunity again to thank you for stepping into the role and taking this and for your leadership and your commitment to this, so I really appreciate everything you've done.
Well,
Totally unforced thing. Okay, all right, wanna pick up the pace? Are there any other committee chairs that I have not recognized yet? Hearing none, okay, so let me go into public safety. So public safety committee, we met on, I'm sorry?
I miss youth and education.
Youth and yes.
Yes.
Youth and education was given by first vice chair. So, transportation, I'm sorry, public safety. So public safety, we met on the 11th. Yeah, we met on the 11th. So, we noted that there were 4 renewals that are happening, and again, just to reiterate, renewals do not come through the board. Those go directly to SLA. SLA is automatically renewing them unless they receive complaints directly to their website. So we just keep them and we monitor the district offices have been good about letting us know for transparency purposes, so we know that they're happening. But among the things that we want to do as we continue is to make sure that we're re-engaging with SLA and with our elected officials, because I think it's important that they do come and they are accountable to the community. One of the things we always do is we have them come and we scrutinize them the way we do, because we want to make sure that they understand their responsibilities to be good neighbors. If you take away that accountability, then and they know that all they have to do is just kind of keep their noses clean, but they don't have to necessarily deal with us again. It doesn't give them any incentive to work with us in terms of making sure that the neighborhood is good. So we're going to continue. That's something that I definitely want to make sure we continue as a conversation. How do we make sure that it's not a rubber stamp where it's like once you have been approved, all of a sudden you're good forever and ever, and you never have to see us again. That's not the way it should work in the community. Yes,
What is the incentive to have them come back?
to be able to say, listen, we are still here, and let them be accountable to the community in terms of we're being good neighbors.
How is that an incentive? What do they gain from that?
Because they should see the neighbors, and we should be able to see them as well. To make sure.
So they please us?
Yeah.
Please the area?
I think it's important, especially because they're dealing with alcohol, because of all the things that happen along with that, because of the quality of life issues and everything like that. I think it's important for them to re-engage.
I think it's important too. I'm wondering how we can make that process something that they are willing to do, as opposed to something that they do only because they feel they have to.
Well, I'm saying is the incentive, if you tell me I don't have to come back, I'm not coming back.
Okay.
But I think it's important from the community perspective that they do re-engage.
Totally.
And they say, well, listen, because I think especially when we do the first applications, it's on faith. You're coming to us, you're saying you're gonna be a good neighbor, you're gonna do all these things, okay, fine. We're going to go on an article of faith and saying that you're gonna be a good neighbor. I think it's important for them to come back, and if they know they have to come back and face us to say, no, listen, you know what, we told you we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, we've lived up to that. I think in past practice, it's been for the most part, listen, if you've been here and you've done that, the community board has never had an issue with doing that. I keep flashing back, going back to our conversation that we had with NYPD. Taste of the City should never have happened because they went wrong so many different ways. But they never came back and were accountable to the board. There were a lot of things we probably could have flagged had we known, but apparently this went right back into the state rubber stamped them because they didn't get anything to their official complaint channel.
Right.
And they got rubber stamped and they went there and that ended up being the tragedy it was.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason why we need to have that kind of accountability to the community, especially because we're the ones who are here. We live it, and we are going to be in the best position to say, yeah, no, they're good, or no, listen, something's wrong.
Yeah, it also makes me wonder about engagement, because I'm sure someone knew and didn't like what was happening there, but they probably didn't come to us.
But, well, here's the thing, they never had to come to us.
No, who, like,
Taste of the City.
I know that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, for people, customers, people who live nearby and don't like that,
Right.
they should know they could send over to the board and something might get done and make its way around. Like,
Right.
I mean, the business is coming is one thing, but I feel like if things were happening for a while there, I'm assuming the NYPD knew. How could they not know? And then they didn't do their part in letting us know either. And then people who live around there probably also knew things were going awry and also said nothing here. So it's like, it needs to be a collaboration. We can't be patrolling the streets every day trying to find things looking weird at businesses.
Mhm.
And at the same time, if they don't have to come for renewals, if that goes straight to SLA, are we just trying to make ourselves look larger so that we make them feel they have to come? And I'm trying to just find the actual cause of that, because it looks like a lot of things went wrong and a lot of information that should have been making its way here didn't make its way here.
Yeah, and
That's not all our fault.
And I think no, I'm not, and it's not about
Oh, yeah.
fault. And it's not to say that. And I'm not gonna say, oh no, if they didn't come here, it's like we could have prevented it. No, that's not. And there are definitely other steps that have to happen as well in terms of, like I said, one development was NYPD. Now, one of the things they do is automatically when they get the complaint, they put it into SLA, so that way they're able to build that.
I'm also
I
saying
think
we
it's-
should be doing it.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things. I want us to continue to say, listen, if you're in the neighborhood, to please let CB9 know as well. And here's the thing, sometimes it's not even a matter of because we want to be the snitches who say, no, you can't have a liquor license. But it's because it also gives us an opportunity as the community board to intervene where appropriate, where it's like, listen, you're having a problem with the neighbors. Can you do something, or let's have a conversation in that role? So, I think that is the proper role of a community board. So we want to improve that, but I think that, and of course I don't have all the details, I don't have the plan, but I think that should be a goal that we work to as a board to make sure that we're responsive to the community, that we're a partner to the establishments as well, and that they're coming back in good faith and we're able to make sure that it's a community conversation. Yes, go ahead.
Can I ask, actually, Dante, do you get like a monthly 311 report or something like
No.
that? Because I think that would be really helpful, like a monthly district 311 summary.
Okay, who are you gonna ask for that?
I don't get one, that was the question.
I mean, I don't know if there's a way on the 311 website to like filter it to things in our district and just see
There probably
like the
is.
top.
Someone could
There's
probably
probably-
build an app
The
to have those
top
auto
place.
send to like an email address.
But who's gonna review all of those?
Well,
Just like the top complaints, right?
Okay.
Just for you to
Yeah.
be able to
I
flag
would
if
just
there are.
ask 311 to send the top.
Yeah. Just
I'm not
just to
going through all that
flag.
necessarily.
Yeah,
The
I
best
mean, you
thing
just
is
wanna
the
flag
app.
like the top.
I mean, we have
areas.
open data.
Yeah.
The data's there. There is if someone has enough time on their hands to maybe build an app, AI app or not, to just forward those with a certain filter to an address. It
Who
could be
has
done
that
in a
time? Are you volunteering?
Usually it'd be me, but I don't do this.
I think
I
actually,
wouldn't
if
do
I'm not
that.
mistaken, the 311 app actually has like drop-down filters that you
Yeah.
can see.
Well,
Just like
well, here's the thing, and I think what's important, we just want to make sure we're moving. The data is there.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to figure out what data we need, what intervals, how quickly we need it, and for what purposes. So definitely a conversation that can happen. At the very least, I'll say this, part of at least the review process that we have is that when an applicant comes in, the office does do that. So if they're currently in an establishment or they have a history, they do check for that with MIPD
Yeah.
and fire and everything else. It's more difficult because if it's a new applicant, at least that's what we used to do with the renewals.
Right.
So we were able to flag a lot of this stuff in terms of if they were a problem, we were able to flag that. We want to get back to that point where it's like, if there's an issue, we can have the conversation as appropriate. Yes.
I thought the fact they had to come back for renewal in front of the board was part of the city charter or some kind of a rule for the state or anything.
They don't have that.
It's called the ABC law, alcohol, beverage, it's something.
Also, this is something at the state level.
At the state level, correct.
So if we want to have that, so the changes have to be made up there.
It has to be made up there, correct. But I wanted to think of the criteria of what do we want and how we push. And this is gonna call for us to talk to our state partners, so this is gonna talk to,
Right, well, this is,
assembly members
this is
and.
something to engage the state elected
Correct.
for them to
But I
see
wanna make
their
sure that we
proposal.
frame the conversation as appropriate so that we can have them advocate for us at that point. Which is why it's gonna be critical, because I know that they're gonna go back up to Albany, they go back up to Albany in January. So the next few months will be critical in terms of framing that conversation, in terms of when you go back up to Albany, these are the things we need.
Well, actually,
SLA is part of what SLA has said is the reason why they don't do the renewals, or they don't do all that stuff is because they say they don't have enough staff.
so last month was, the election is next week, there will be the right time to engage them about some of this stuff.
It would have been, we are not in that position yet, but I think whoever does come in, I think it's important that we send a charge with them back to Albany when they go back. So there's the opportunity to do that. And of course, we could consider again for election cycles, or what I think is good for the board, I think to continue doing things like resolutions that state what the issues are on the ground and what we expect to, what we anticipate are the solutions to address these things.
Oh, I know, Fred,
Yes.
this morning there was a shooting on Lincoln between Flatbush and Bedford. I had no idea what it was about.
That was during the next game.
That was the next
After
game,
the-
yeah.
after the game.
Yeah. There's a couple of, yeah.
The one for us was the one on,
It's first man.
they just
Unfortunately.
gave up the scene today.
Oh, wow, cause my
The
husband saw
scene
it
just
take
just
off.
closed today because when I came,
Saw it take
this morning they were still there.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a shooting on the big celebration.
Yeah.
Wow.
That,
Any shots fired in there?
which one?
Like some person was
Shots
like,
fired at somebody.
Right, I think the person that died living because they had a screen and all this stuff, they were at a celebration, argument started, and that's been all over the news.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
A 44-year-old man was killed.
Yeah.
Right, for
Guys with 4 children, right?
Yeah.
I think he had
No,
like
did
3 or 4
Yeah,
children, I think.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
so definitely, I mean, I think from that perspective, obviously, we're excited that the next one.
Yeah.
But I mean, these kinds of incidents, these are the ones that we want to have conversations to figure out how can we avoid these sensitive tragedies. I always get concerned around this time of the year as well, because summertime, heat just tends to make people do really, really weird things. So we're definitely having conversations with outside groups as well, hopefully continue to engage with MIPD. Other groups, I know a lot of organizations are doing summer programming for youth, which is important because I think they need to be engaged and they need to find good outlets and not just be out there as well. So we're trying to make sure that we continue to have those conversations and find partners. And Dante pushes out information about programming and things of that nature as well. Take a question.
the question I have, we have a group which wants to be finance interrupters in this neighborhood, the elite learners.
Okay, elite learners.
How do they relate to the board?
They don't. Okay, there's a little bit of a nuance to that. They don't relate specifically to the board. Typically, they work with NYPD, and there's a couple of mayoral offices that they deal with. Like, for example, they're really going to come into play as we talk about things. That's a good segue. When we talk about the Parkway coming up, so typically they will engage with them in terms of, how do we have plans? How are they integrated into the communities? Are there certain areas of conversations with people that they can have that we wouldn't necessarily be credible messengers? So that's something that we're working on definitely. That's a continuing conversation that we have. With regards to the carnival, just to touch on that quickly, so that planning is going to be starting soon. We have definitely, as a board, been pushing to make sure that the board is included as part of that. Because I think, one, the safety aspect, we've seen too many of these things over the last couple of years. Too many incidents, too much loss of life over that. We want to make sure that it's safe. I think the other thing we've discussed as part of the committee as well is even the quality of life issues that happen as we get closer. Between when you're doing the bus reroutings, how do people even know about these things? When you're doing, if I live right there and all of a sudden the cop is telling me I can't come home after working, the overnight shift. And a number of other things as well that we think that they need to consider these things as they're doing planning. And that just goes with all major events that we do as well. So that's a continuing conversation. I had mentioned before, I apologize, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. NYPD, just to make that announcement as well, they actually, the 71st Precinct does have a new commanding officer. I'm sorry?
I said you can't make it.
Yes. So the old commanding officer had a number of other issues that he
Let me
needed
say
to
it
address.
again. When did this one start?
He just got selected maybe 2 weeks ago.
So it is
Right. Okay, let me see. Let's go back. The former CO was not able to complete this tour.
Oh, okay.
Executive.
But that's
So that's why they had a new
So we had to get a
process
new one?
forward. Yes, for a new one. All right. So his name is Deputy Inspector Gennaro. He's actually coming back. He started here at the
Right.
71st.
Oh, correct. No,
So
it's
he
not.
is going to be the
Right.
taking over his.
I think I had knew because he was in.
One of the commitments that he has made is that he is going to be present. So we have asked for him to come to public safety to come and address the board as well. But I think it's important to have that visibility and contact, and that's something that has been lacking over a number of years. Okay, let me jump into the action items that we have. Well, no, let me do
Still on
this
public
first.
safety?
Yeah, still on public safety. Let me do this first. The other thing is, I know that this is something that's been delayed, and mainly because it's been stuck in my hands, but we have been talking about developing a framework for the board to consider when we're actually looking at liquor licenses. The reason why this is critical is because we want to make sure that there is a consistency in the way we review applications and how we approve them, or if we disapprove them, to make sure that there is a rationale where we are consistent. Going back to the SLA, we are advisory. The SLA is looking, if we say yes, okay, fine, it's great. If we say no, what are the reasons why we are saying no? And part of the reason, part of the way we have credibility is if we are consistent. So in other words, if we have a policy and we're consistent with the policy, then there is a reason for us to be credible. If we look like we are picking and choosing who we like and who we don't like, that kind of undermines the credibility of the board. Which is really critical, because if we are consistently giving away 2 o'clock times, but then all of a sudden we decide no, but for the ones we, if there's certain groups that we are going to allow the 4 o'clocks or whatever else, or everything else, our credibility becomes undermined. And also I think it's very important because the committee does a very, very big job in terms of, we have some real hard conversations with applicants. We're trying to do the balancing act in terms of, we want you to be able to thrive. We know, understand you're a business. Alcohol is a part of that business, and you want to be able to do that. But we also have a responsibility to the neighbors. So in other words, if you have people who work late, if you have people who have children, if you have people, who don't want to hear noise at all hours of the night, and we have to consider that as well. That goes back to that whole conversation about, it's a community of conversation that has to happen. We're trying to balance all of this. So the framework is something that we're continuing to work on. It's delayed, but that is something we're looking to get forward.
One question on that. Because a lot of people, like to say that they're not anti-business, and then they see a business owner here begging essentially for like a certain exception or for a certain time, and they continue to ignore that and do the thing that they just said they're not anti-business to do. And I'm not saying that anyone deserves to be open late. I'm just saying some businesses are going to try their best to try to mitigate things like hearing them at all hours of the night and causing the problems that would make people want to have a cutoff time, right? If someone is able to pull off, let's say, a business that you wouldn't even know was there, and they're being loud, but no one could tell above them outside, etc. It's like if it didn't exist. If someone was able to engineer a space that was so good at containing the business, right? Would that factor in to those time allowances? Are they just a preference of the area, or is this actually, not arbitrary, and is it based on their effects on the area itself? I think questions like that, consistent or not, can all be good reasons for giving one business a different time and another one a different one. If a business is walking up and saying, I don't have any soundproofing plans, of course you're not going to get 4 a.m. or 2 a.m. or maybe even 1. But if someone else has a really robust plan and put the money and the effort and the time into making sure they respect the neighborhood and have a minimal impact on it, I think giving that the same treatment as somebody else that didn't put that time in is by definition unfair. And I would like to understand how we're going to weigh those efforts in the future.
Yes.
Well, I think part of that is the reason why we're going to develop a framework, and that'll be something that can be debated, discussed by the board. But I think at the end of it, we do want to make sure that there's that consistent. I don't want to necessarily make it a contest in terms of who can do the best in terms of presenting before the board to convince them that I'm going to be the best neighbor ever. You won't even know I'm here, so give me until 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't think we want to change it into that kind of a conversation. I think that it's a reasonable balance to say, and this will be the debate. Okay, a business, a restaurant, a bar, you're doing something, fine, but there is a reasonable cutoff because you are in a residential district in most instances in CB9. So I think
But
that
once
is really
they're
the conversation.
approved, they could stay open till 4
No, they can't.
legally.
No, they can't.
Oh, I
If they're
thought that
approved
too.
by the liquor
I thought that
license.
too.
Yeah, well, the thing is because their license stipulates that they shut down.
Well,
that's the
who-
stipulation,
Who's
that
going
way-
around checking?
I'm sorry?
The SLA has no staff.
They don't.
Wait,
No, no,
wait,
no,
wait,
no,
wait.
this
So
is-
a police officer would have to be like, your SLA application actually says 2 a.m. and you're
Well,
open
no,
till
the complaint
4.
goes into SLA saying,
Okay.
and that's the reason why this has to be a community conversation, because the complaint will say that they were slinging alcohol until 3:30 in the morning. And then when that goes to SLA can look at it and say, oh, hold on, there was a conversation they had with CB9 and they stipulated to, they're gonna be done by 2:30, or whatever the time was. So that's the conversation that has to happen in terms of, and that's the reason why we go back again. Are you being a good neighbor? So if you come in here and we come to the agreement of whatever the time was, are you abiding by that and being a good neighbor?
Also, Dante, I've been hearing different takes on this.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
I thought so too, I agree.
I thought that once they were approved, they could
If they're all
really
good to
do whatever they wanted.
So if the state authority says the stipulations that you all create in this room and the board passes, if they say, hey, we like stipulations, that doesn't mean they're gonna take all of them, right? You could have 24 of them and they only take 2, right? If they take those stipulations, they have to do those stipulations because the authority has said, this is what we agree to.
Yes.
One issue.
So
is
how do
that-
we know if we put stipulations out there if the state accepts them or not?
Well, that means the
That's
board
it.
people have to
That's
get up and go
exactly
see
right.
at 4 o'clock if they close.
But why do we
We
need
don't
to
get
do it?
feedback
it's-
from the
You
state
should
of
be,
what they
you should be able to
approve.
just go onto the database where their license is
Yeah.
and see when they got it, when they're up for renewal. It has all of that information.
Yeah, the issue is usually not, I mean, if we send a letter saying we stipulated and the letters will usually say that we stipulated to this. So we had a conversation with the applicant.
Mhm.
The
But we
applicant
would have
agreed
to
this.
know that people were complaining to then alert SLA.
Well,
we
and
would put a
but that's the reason why it comes
stipulation
back to
down.
the complaint process, and that's
Yeah.
the reason why they have the outreach piece of it, where people know where to go if there is an actual problem. So if you have a complaint, originally I would have said, call CB9, CB9 will lodge a complaint. apparently those aren't the complaints. that
So
need
if
to
you
go.
call 311, it's not gonna go directly.
311 doesn't count.
So
It has to go to SLA,
I don't
and that's
think
part of the
people
reason
know.
why.
Another question that I had before when they started this process is the police department sends complaints into SLA. If we do SLA takes complaints on their website, why can't we just put them through there?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense, because now we have to herd hundreds of or thousands of people to do a new activity they haven't been doing it before.
But if they complain through 311 and the police go, then they'll put the complaint in
Yeah,
to
right.
SLA.
The NYPD will put that in there as well. And we started the conversation with the 71st to say, listen, when you put that in, let us know. So at least that way we are aware of it as well.
That's correct.
Now, the other piece of it is, how do we do the outreach in the community so that way they know how to lodge the complaint and everything else? So it's like, don't just complain on your stoop. And again, I don't want to necessarily say, listen, we're going to waste motion to say complain to CB9, unless we figure out a way where it's like, listen, we can be the reporter for you. So
I mean, if somebody's
CB9
really upset about it, I would guess that they would figure out a way
Yeah.
to have their complaint heard. Don't you?
I agree.
If you were like, there's a bar downstairs for me, and they get through to 311, they're like, you have to make the complaint to the state. They're gonna start complaining to the state. I mean, if it's really
No,
bothering
and that's
them.
fine. And all I'm saying is, I think we just
People
want to make
find
sure
a
we
way,
formalize
yeah.
that. So I think it's just important for us, and it's good for us to formalize that, and people know there's a document where they can understand how the process works.
Like a
going
link
back-
on our website,
I'm sorry?
like a link on the
Yeah, we can put
CB9
We
website
can
that's
put it
like,
on-
don't
right
make
on
the
the
complaints to us. Here's where you should make them.
Yeah.
This will be more heard.
I mean, if that's the case, I mean, there might be some additional conversations we have to have at SLA if we're able to do that. Where listen, if we get the complaint, can CB9 do that on their behalf?
I feel that would be the ideal
Right.
situation.
But I don't want to commit to that because I think that might be some conversations we have to have. But I just wanted to bring it back to that whole idea of what the framework is intended to do is kind of outline that what the policy of the board is, so that way we are consistent and the messaging is clear and everyone has and understands what the expectations are. So board members can look at the document and say, you know what, we're not debating, to the point where it's like I don't want to necessarily make it a debate between who said it better about if it's a 3 o'clock or a 4 o'clock or a 2 o'clock. If there's a more or
Or a
less
midnight.
consistent,
Right.
I'm sorry,
Or a midnight.
or midnight, that time to be decided. But I think if we are consistent with it, I think it helps our credibility with SLA. If we are consistent with it, it lets business owners know up front what we are doing. So in other words, don't come with 4 o'clock because we already have a document that says we're not doing 4 o'clock. So I think it sets expectations up front that makes the conversations easier.
Just one other thing from me, listen to you.
Mhm.
I want to open a business. I go, I rent my space, I do all of that. And then they say, application for you because of the service and liquor. And all you could do is stop me from selling liquor. That's it, right? With the SLA, not close down my business.
Mhm.
No, it's not about closing that business.
Okay, it's only with
It's about your license. It's about your SLA
so if
business.
so okay. So
About
they-
your license.
I was at mixers and not doing liquor. Oh,
Yeah.
That's
But going back to your point, again, it sets that expectation where it's like, if we have a formalized policy that we've discussed and it's public and everything
Yes.
like that, if you're a business looking to do business in CB9,
Check
it involves
CB9
alcohol.
first before you were parent for some place.
Yeah, no, you want, and you know what, yeah.
Then you come in
It
here
kind
and
of
then
does
you know,
because as a business,
and,
you
and you're a
understand.
business guy that you work
If your
for
model
outside.
means that I have to sell
Yeah.
business 24/7,
Yeah.
then maybe CB9 is
That's not the
place
business.
for you.
Right.
Or you can do your calculations based
Yes.
on, okay, if I can serve out from X hour to X to Y hour, you can do the math you need to do to make sure that it works for you. But I think it's important for us to do that. But again, it's that consistency I think is important. And I also wanted to underscore this as well, and then I'm gonna go into the next. It's important too because it's already been practiced in terms of the majority of the applications we do. These are all conversations that have been had at the public safety committee level, where we are consistent, where it's not like we said, okay, 1 o'clock to one person, 3 o'clock to another person. The hours more or less are consistent, especially in the last 3 or 4 years. They've been consistent in terms of people come in and we have that and they stipulate to that, and it's usually around, I'd have to look at the number again. But we try and stay consistent with that, and it's not like we pick, okay, well, these are our favorites and they can go until 4 o'clock in the morning. There are gonna be licenses that have been grandfathered in, so they preceded conversations we've had before. That is what it is, but at least on a go forward, I think that from a community perspective, we've been more or less consistent over the last few years. All right.
Yeah, we had to minus.
Okay, go ahead, take mine first.
Okay,
Yes, go ahead.
so my question is, we wanna be consistent. However, at not the last meeting, maybe it was the last meeting, I feel like some people were upset because
Yes.
the general board didn't agree with what the
Because
committee
we
said.
But we were not
If
the
we're
committee.
supposed to be consistent, one, but also a democracy, so
Yes.
am I supposed to just vote with the committee because they're the committee? And yes, they've done the work, but that's not, if I don't agree with what they're saying, why should I be kind of like strong-armed into voting with what they say? That's one thing. Second is that we see this in politics in general, where the whole party goes behind the person who we know shouldn't be doing what they're supposed to be doing. And not to say that that's what happened with the committee, but I don't agree with what they came down with.
Yes.
Because yes, it is, and yes, maybe the framework would help. But without that framework there right now, you have someone who is a member of the community.
Right.
Not someone who's coming from a different community and saying, hey, I'm gonna put my business here, like we had when they had the cannabis shops. Like, you know, I'm coming in from outside the community. This is someone who lives in the community, across the street, and we're pushing our neighbors to do something that may be against their against their business model, not just their business model, but against what works for them. And I've seen this even on Nostrand Avenue, that mother-daughter that had opened up their spot
Yes.
on between Empire and Sterling Street. They're closed now.
Yeah.
And how are we doing that to our own community members? We're kind of like pushing them out the street because it's liquor. As we see supply and demand. Maybe that business model
we didn't
didn't work.
change their hours, whatever hours they requested, they got.
You know,
They might have just closed so their location was off, or
And let me say,
the public safety committee gave them full approval.
no, I remember that, but for them on Nostrand, but even, I'm talking about more so the last meeting, cause I felt like,
Yes.
hey, you should have voted with us, we're part of we're part of the board,
Not the
but
same.
then what's the point in having the general meeting,
Well,
what's the point in
because
having
well,
other
We're trying to
members?
institute an earlier closing time for
Right.
the benefit of the
well,
community,
yeah,
and
so if I can address, let me just address two
So
of
also
them.
that's a problem.
Yeah, so there's two things operating here. One, you are absolutely correct. The board is the one who makes the final determination, so the board can accept or reject. That is within the purview of the board. I'll say that I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't happy with that, but you know, I guess what in my career in CB9, there's a lot of votes I haven't been happy with, and you know, that's the nature of the beast. That's what happens when we're in a democracy. You don't always win, and sometimes we just have to go with that. With that being said, I do always ask that we hopefully give some credence to the committees as well in terms of some of the work that's been done. I will leave that there. But it goes back also to the point of, I think that I also want, I want to really stress the message in terms of part of the reason why it's important to listen in this respect, because there is a history and there's a consistency that we want to make sure that we were talking about before. Larger than that one, it's there are conversations that have happened in terms of there are a lot of applicants who have agreed to the terms and said, no, listen, if that's what is in the best interest of the community, they've agreed to these things. There are a lot of people who listen, if I had a chance, I would stay open until 4 o'clock in the morning. And I would not have done that. But you know what, to be good partners and good neighbors, they've already agreed to that. So to start deviating from that, I think, it creates a lot of issues, and I think it's also, and I don't want to say it in that way, but it's also disrespectful to some of the other applicants who came before and said, yeah, no, okay, we'll agree with that.
Mhm.
Because they could have had that opportunity, or they would have taken that up too if that was it. We don't want it to become the Wild Wild West. And again, looking at the bigger picture with SLA, I think one of the things that's been good for us is that we've been consistent. So I mean, if nothing else, we've been consistent with SLA. So I think SLA will at least take us seriously if we say yes or we say no. So we do that. So I think that's one of the things that we want to be clear of.
And one final question about that.
Sure.
Think of the framework, because I think it's a good idea. I'm just concerned about the substance of it. If the framework ends up being sort of just hours that we say, and the core reason ends up being because we said so, and because we like it this way, there is ultimately, on two levels, nothing behind that. For example, people on the board who disagree with that could be trying, well, are they going to be expected to vote always in lockstep with this framework, right? If someone says, I want to amend this to 4, give them 4, give them 3, can people do that? Because there might be some people in the crowd who are saying, the framework says this, but I haven't heard a single good reason why this business should be limited to this, right? They might not think that, they might want some more substance out of the reason for that. And my second concern is,
Well, if I can just answer, because
Sure.
the purpose of the framework is that it's not about considering an individual business, it's about the framework. This is how we do it consistently for all the businesses. So we take out, it's not about a business anymore, it's about how do we deal with alcohol licenses.
so that sounds like a way to kind of corral votes to a certain set of hours by default.
No, it's about keeping it consistent, where it's like, you know what, everyone is treated equally. So it's not like I'm not telling Ethan, you can keep your bar open until 2 o'clock. We tell everybody that their bar can stay open until 2 o'clock.
Right.
I'm
And if
fine
yes, so
with that.
Sorry?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with consistency.
Yeah.
If we're gonna be consistent and this is the time that we say for everyone, then fine. Whether they are part of the community and not part of the community, fine. That's it. But because of how we are right now, we're not consistent in that sense.
We actually are more consistent.
We're more consistent, but are we completely consistent?
Well,
Because
here's
if
the
we're
thing. I
completely
would-
consistent, then there would be no vote.
No, here's the thing. I would say that we're not consistent only because we kind of went against our consistency at the last meeting.
Okay,
My problem,
So
Okay.
that's what I'm saying. That
Okay.
becomes the outlier, and then and the danger is because we're all of a sudden setting up outliers, it really makes it hard for us, when other businesses come up, because to the point where it's like we went against that at the last one, and immediately a month later, all of a sudden we have another license coming and say, oh, by the way, I saw what happened and they said that specifically at the meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
I saw what happened last month.
Yes.
Guess what? I'll roll the dice in front of the board and hopefully I get a better deal.
right. Now the reason why,
Which is what we want to discourage, which I think is something we should discourage.
I'll be quick with this one. The
Yes.
reason why the other concern I have about the consistency, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I think it can backfire. Because if they're all, let's say, open until 2, right? Let's say 2 a.m. or midnight is our time. We're gonna end up potentially having businesses that have different effects on the neighborhood that they're in based on that. Like, let's say one person does a great job soundproofing, people are fine with them, and somebody else not so much, and they're a much bigger disturbance despite having the same treatment. I think that takes away a lot of our ability to help these businesses actually be good neighbors if we can't just boil down the requirements to be all the same. Unless the requirements are actually substantial and specific. Like if we just say we want people close to 2 or at 1, you're gonna still have some that are very much a disturbance or a nuisance or worse than others that are very non-noticeable and blend in pretty well. And I think that's what we should be looking at, not so much the time.
Well, here's the thing. I think the time sets a standard where that's it. If you are still a noise nuisance, then we're going to eliminate that because you're living within the time. It's just a matter of guess what your soundproofing is crap, and that's a separate conversation the community can have, where it's like, all right, listen, you're doing that part, you're good, but you're still loud. And I think that's where the district office can mediate that, where it's like we're getting sound complaints. Let's talk about that. What can you do to remediate that? And we can do that. But I think it comes back to where it's like we should have that consistency around the time because at least that's eliminated as one of the reasons why. Well, you're a nuisance because you're going till 4 o'clock in the morning. The time will be debatable. We can look at what the best time is. I think we've kind of fallen into because I think there's been a real recognition on the part of the Public Safety Committee where 4 o'clock is a non-starter, even though that's what the state law says in Kings County. That's a non-starter. But at the same time, you know what? I don't think it's fair to tell everybody you need to be tucked in by 9 o'clock on a Saturday night either. So I think that's been the happy medium that they've been able to strike. I think a number of businesses have taken that, even in some of the conversations that have happened in the Public Safety Committee. What we found is that not necessarily, saying that you can stay open until 4 o'clock isn't necessarily a business decision. You just want the opportunity to say I'm staying open until 4 o'clock.
They want the option.
Yeah.
99% of them don't even
No,
stay
yes,
open.
that's all.
They don't stay open until that.
They
But the
don't.
other piece of that though is okay, well listen, it's not necessarily something that anybody's ever said has been the difference maker that broke their margin. Because for most of them, what they've said is, well, we just want to catch the crowd that didn't get a chance to drink somewhere else, so they can come and get a late drink here. And they've never even ever said that, oh, we're talking about this is gonna be like 15%, 20% of the business.
I think my issue with the last time
Because
was
of
because of the holidays.
Absolutely.
Because they did mention, if they're open on a holiday or the day before a holiday on a Sunday. And I don't think that we should try to restrict a business that may need or may be able to serve the day before holiday. I think that maybe should be something in the framework that if the holiday is on a Monday and they wanna stay open late on Sunday, that they're able to do so.
And those
And
are
that
gonna be,
was the sticking point.
those are gonna be additional conversations where we'll have to figure out how we wordsmith that. Do we put in a carve out to say, all right, your normal thing is 2 o'clock in the morning, except on 3-day weekends where you can stay open until 3.
Yeah, like there are.
And maybe, you know,
or the World Cup
Yes,
is.
you mean
or
that
the
right
work,
now.
and this is the thing, and that's something.
That's
That's something when you don't want them open, because you're gonna have riots.
And we're saying
No,
we're
Ryan
saying we're not
didn't
business.
create riots. It's
No,
New
that's not
York
how that
City
works.
Knicks who created the shooting. Don't get World Cup involved.
And the thing is,
This
we
Tim is
people just
defending the out
carrying
of football.
bottles on the street, drinking and watching the game. That's worse. I would rather people drink at the bartender able to watch and regulate the environment than have people just have their friends out on the street with bottles and people are getting drunk, and that's worse. It's not better.
Well, that becomes a separate public safety issue, but anyway, but you know what, I apologize, I know I'm dragging this out a little bit. Kendall will take your point, then I do wanna get to the action.
2 quick things. One is this a borough board discussion, so there's consistency among the boards or that each one is making up their own rules. The second is, I know the folks at the New York City Hospitality Alliance, I'm gonna do a conversation with them as well. If we're getting into what's the framework and the guidelines that are workable and make sense and provide some consistency. So offer those 2 questions in that conversation.
Well, let me just answer this point out, then we have to move on. So Kendall, so to that point, New York Hospitality Alliance, absolutely the conversation we can have. Although my thought would be that there's a certain particular slant that they'd have in terms of the way they're looking at that.
Well, but they would want to promote consistency as well.
Consistency, but I think there's also a slant where they also want to promote that. 4 o'clock sounds good, you know. And I'm being facetious, but I think that's, on the borough board level, now the challenge that happens with this is I think one of the things we have to recognize as well is that every community is different. So I mean, I think,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
yes and no. Well, here's the thing. I think there are things that in certain areas of say Williamsburg,
Are we gonna sleep
yeah,
here?
you know, it's something that's probably much
Are we
more
sleeping here?
appropriate to get it there. Even if you went over to Fulton Street.
Williamsburg cuts, both ways, or 3 ways, or 5 ways.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
depending on where
And
you are.
here's the thing, there's nothing that we're gonna decide that's gonna please everybody, so I think we need to be clear about that.
But my question was
think-
about consistency among the
Right.
boards, and is it 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is.
Right.
Check our own boards.
But you'll probably find a bunch of boards where it's like, if you said that, we have cutoff time at 2 o'clock in the morning, they'll look at you like you're crazy.
Yeah.
So that'll happen, but that'll be the thing that'll happen as, those will be the things that'll come out as we have the conversations. Suki, and if you have.
I agree, we should see what other boards are
Right.
doing, particularly communities that we think are similar. But I don't think we need to aim for consistency, because there are definitely boards that hardly have any bars. It's just that the population that lives there is does not drink, right? We know there, and then
No
there are
drink.
those where it's like party all night all the time. And we're kind of, somewhere in between.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say is, I don't think that, I agree with you about the nuisance issues if they can be mitigated, but the liquor license laws aren't only there for noise and for nuisance, right? There is a kind of general health and economic development concern, just the same as what we have for cannabis, that, we know it's profitable, and that's why there's sin taxes and things like that. We don't want it necessarily taking over a business corridor because we've just allowed it to make so much money. And then there's the health concerns, right? Even if that seems a little paternalistic, but that's why I think there are limits, and it's reasonable to have limits in general, right? But to your point about can the noise be controlled another way? Yeah, actually, before City of Yes, the zoning code did attempt to control things that way by saying that you can't get a nightclub license unless you show up before the BSA and you show us the architectural plans to show us that you're gonna mitigate noise, and you show us the traffic mitigation plans and that. But going up before the BSA is a very big endeavor, and you need to pay lawyers, you need to pay architects and everything. That's actually probably more like trying to control it through, say, and then I remember one of my committee members was saying, oh, well, why don't we just have a DOB regulation that says everyone has to have a certain level of noise insulation? All that kind of thing actually is probably more expensive for the businesses than just agreeing to what CB9 says if we want you to close at a certain hour. That's just my take.
Exactly.
You're absolutely right.
You're right. That's what's going to after the people pay all of that becomes the city council before we put back in money.
Right, and that's, I mean, it cuts both ways. If someone has put that effort and money in, it's also a bit anti-business to tell them, well,
But just
too bad they're not
saying-
gonna get anything for it.
All I'm saying is lots of people, like historically, like since I started the board, lots of people have said, oh, yes, we're experts in noise mitigation, and then 3 months later, we're looking at them and they have open windows, so like, I don't know what you did for noise mitigation, but your windows are open and and you're blasting the music out, so.
The reason why I bring it up is because I've actually been out here on the streets, like in businesses and responding to complaints and helping advise them on noise mitigation, because people out here have ceiling mounted speakers and they don't know that the sound will just travel to the next floor instead of getting bounced back in. And that's my thing, they're closing when they think they should, but they don't even know sometimes how to produce the actual result of not being a nuisance. And I'm focused on the result. I'm not just trying to have a certain preference because we have it. I'm trying to make sure the end result is happy neighbors.
I'm just
And I've
saying,
been actually doing that.
Okay,
I'm just saying actually get
listen, listen, this is a conversation we'll defer. We'll have plenty of opportunity, but I just wanted to set the framework. But, so let me get to the nitty gritty, what's important here. The Public Safety Committee considered 3 applications. Okay, so,
we got treated.
yes, we have for Plush BK Hospitality located at 252 Empire Boulevard for a full license. We have Beanstable, doing business as High-Low, but I think they're changing that name, at 820 Franklin Avenue for a new liquor, wine, beer, and cider. And we also have Petite Cafe, 2, doing business as Sweet Sundays Cafe at 1034 Nostrand Avenue. The recommendations of the committee are as such. So these are the 3 voting items we'll have. For Plush, we had voted to approve their license with the stipulation, and they gave us the hours Monday through Thursday, 5 through 12, Friday through Sunday, 5 to 2, and on Sundays from 11 to 1. So this is a stipulation that we arrived at with the applicant. So that's what the recommendation of the committee is for Plush BK. For Beanstable, well, actually, let me go to the other easy one. For Sweet Sundays, it's casual dining, and they gave their hours. They're mostly a dinner establishment, so most of their hours they closed by 11 o'clock. There was no objection from the committee, so the recommendation was to approve that application. The conversation was the recommendation of the committee was for Beanstable doing business as High-Low. To stipulate hours from Monday through Thursday from 4 to 12, Friday to Saturday from 4 to 2 a.m., and Sundays from 12 to 1. Those hours were because that's fairly consistent with all the other applications that we did. The applicant was not amenable to those hours. So they are going to come and present. So the motion before the board is we stipulate to those hours. If they're okay with that, though, that's the recommendation that will go. If they do not want to, if they don't agree to that, then it's a letter of objection based on, we were never able to arrive on the stipulation, agree on the stipulation.
If I could also add, I think since public safety didn't quite like how the board, voted differently from how they asked, I think it stems from the problem of the board only really hears the applicants present. The committee generally doesn't provide any insight into their decision, and they've expressed that they want board members to ask more questions, but I feel like questions happen in response to a presentation. People generally would be more willing to discuss and vote with the committee if the committee presented something to kind of illustrate why they decided what they did. Let's try to put that in the agenda.
That's fair. What we can do is, when we get to that section, we will explain the recommendation of the committee.
Yeah.
So as the chair, I will present that, and we will open the floor at that time for debate where members of the board and the committee will have an opportunity to speak as well.
Yes, one's had it for a long time, but yeah.
Correct. Okay. All right. So those are the 3 recommendations.
So you got
Ms. Walsh, was there anything that was missing from that, or?
No, that's actually a very good point. The same way like someone comes up for ULURP, it's a great idea if Suki stands there and says very quickly, this is what we discussed in the meeting for an hour and a half. I'm gonna shorten it for 3 minutes. Should cut down on 20 people raising their hands and asking questions that were already accomplished. And it's the same thing with public safety. We grill each applicant for a half an hour, and if we could get up there with the applicant and explain in 3 minutes how we came to this decision, it might cut down on a lot of the questions.
Okay, so that'll be part of the presentation when we bring them up.
Yeah.
Or can we delay the vote until we have the time to meet with the committee, or the committee can, suppose 3 minutes is not enough time?
No, I mean, that's not really the option, and in fairness to the applicant as well, they should get an answer one way or another.
Okay.
Yes.
One way or another, they'll get an answer.
They are able to get a temporary license from SLA.
Right.
Okay, also.
Thank you.
Yeah.
SLA doesn't really inform us what they approved either.
So we'll see.
But now Dante says on the website, so I guess
All right then, that concludes my report, so with those 3 action items. Any last questions? Well,
So-
we kind of went through this, so can we go into
So,
the agenda?
I think we could, all the people who are here
Yes.
tonight, maybe get on in the general meeting, we already got access, please don't get them to speak.
Okay, so let's go. All right, we got a few more items. Okay, so those are the 3 action items. All right.
Let's make a polling session.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Dante, do you want to give a DM report? And then we can
I'm going to speed through it really fast. So in late May, members of the New York State Liquor Authority approved a new advisory eliminating the longstanding requirement that on-premise liquor license applicants disclose whether patron dancing will be permitted at their establishment. The idea: remove this outdated dancing restriction from the SLA licensing process.
Wow.
Someone has to
Please, let me finish. Thank you. Prospect Park Alliance is replacing replacing 4 all-season fountains along Park Drive. These fountains were funded by District 39 participatory budgeting, but failed to withstand the wear and tear of the usage. They needed to wait until it was warmer. Completion is expected to take 10 to 12 weeks. Secondly, someone vandalized 9 of the park's drinking fountains by removing their brass basins. Parks is sourcing those basins. That should take 10 to 12 weeks. We received a DOT safety project notification, Rutland Road and New York Avenue. We were informed that DOT has a project at the intersection of Rutland Road and New York Avenue in our district. The project consists of implementing a raised crosswalk along the west leg of the intersection crossing Rutland Road. This location was chosen as part of a raised crosswalk program that focuses on locations near pedestrian generators such as schools, parks, senior centers, where there are high volumes of children or senior pedestrians. I need to get more data on this, but more, I guess, facts, but this is a note that I'm allowed to bring up. So the Breaking Ground shelter located at 781 Clarkson Avenue in our district apparently is in such disrepair that the state is planning to phase out that location. They're not planning to repair it at all. So that shelter will be phasing out. That timeline, don't know yet. I have asked these questions, so once that comes to me, I will report out. I assume this will happen over the summer on into the fall, but just wanted to let you all know of that. The last Rent Guidelines Board hearing to discuss the guidelines for October 1st, 2026 through September 30th, 2027. That final hearing was actually tonight. If you are interested in submitting any written comment, you can submit written comments still at ask@rgb.nyc.gov or go to NYC Rules, look for the hearing, and then submit it there online. Just a little administrative things. city-wide station maintenance, if you see a station that appears not to receive any maintenance, let us know so we can reach out to the specific department at DOT. One of the requirements of the shelter placement at Empire Boulevard was to create a community advisory board. That's supposed to be happening rather soon. I have asked how long the board has to make its appropriate placement on that advisory board. So once I get that information back during the summer, you're gonna receive that email. We do have a recycling event coming up with Assembly members from Forest, Councilmember Hudson, DSNY, and the Lower East Side Ecology Center. That's going to be at St. Francis DeSalle School for the Deaf in the back parking lot on July 7th from 10 to 2 p.m. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The CB9 calendar for next year is already online, and it is not changing.
Okay.
So,
Jewish
who-
holidays are Saturday and
that
Sunday.
it's already up there.
Very good.
So
That's very
it
exciting.
is not changing. Whomever the committee chairs are moving forward, the expectation will be you will elect your vice chairs, and if you cannot make it, they will run your meetings. That's why you have a vice chair.
Right.
That's why it is fair for the public to know when the meetings are so they can make it and not move them back and forth because just one person can't do the meeting. It's just that information is already online, so please go look at it. The shooting was already mentioned. For Utica, the train station, the MTA plans to have that station elevator back online in early fall. For Prospect Park, that elevator is supposed to be back online this month.
Oh, wow.
That's not bad.
And that's it for my report.
Thank you, John.
Was that Prospect Park elevator sooner than they said? Because they
think
had said
so.
many, like,
Mm.
in the
It's kind of fitting the window of when they said that they would have it done. The Utica seems to be taking longer.
All right.
I have one quick question, it may not be related.
Well, if I could ask this,
Go ahead.
She's gonna give this report again, I wanna get everybody out this pathway.
Yeah.
So if we can, we'll, during the meeting, we'll open the floor, so we'll maybe opportunities to ask questions for the district manager's report. Is that okay?
Mhm.
All right, thank you, I know that you wanna get on.
Oh, no, we couldn't wait.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I'm gonna try and follow suit, chairman's report, not a lot. One, thank you for the community fair, everybody who attended, it was great. This is an event that we started, and it's just gotten better every year, thank you so much for that. 71st Precinct, new CO, we already mentioned that, so we'll try and make sure they come. The shelter, the fair share report was distributed to everyone. Questions about the fair share report, so that'll have to be, there'll be some commentary that we should push back with the board in terms of the accuracy of the information and some of the implications, but that's gonna be a continuing conversation along with what the DM said, with respect to, asking for, nominations for the community advisory board. Necessary, but I think there's a lot of other conversations that should be happening, consistent with the resolution that we had passed, the other month. Elections are coming up, so, the bios should have gone out already. Please make sure.
We're still waiting for some candidates to send in their bios.
Okay.
Oh, wait, am I one
You
of
should
them?
talk to those.
No, this went out yesterday, so.
Please make sure that we get those. Now, the one action item that I do want for the exec to consider is this, or at least for the board. I think it's important for us to clarify the runoff process because it speaks to the fact that the candidate has to have 50% or more. We have a number of positions that are running where there's several candidates, so it's quite possible that somebody will not get 50% at the first one. So I think we want to set the criteria. I think this is what I want to do. I want to set the, before we have the election, I think it's important for us to vote on what is the cutoff for the runoff. The proposal, what I would like for us to vote on and recommend from the exec and go for the full board on Thursday, is that the runoff will be for all candidates who are above the 50% threshold.
Up to.
Up to the 50% threshold. So in other words, if candidate number 1 got 25%, candidate number 2 got 20%, and candidate number 3 got 15%, those 3 are the top 50% vote getters. So I guess let me rephrase. The top 50% of vote getters can go on to the next round.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The top 50% of vote getters can go over. So if
So
there's
you got
3 people,
51.
I'm sorry? No, the top 50% of vote getters go on to the runoff.
So let's say 7 run.
So
Yeah,
7
we
run,
have 3 going for that again,
exactly,
which
go to the runoff.
which could be a third runoff,
Possibly,
a second
possibly.
runoff.
It could be,
So,
it could be,
so in reality, this is for all the elections.
for all the elections, yes. Now, the way the
Third,
math
fourth,
works
fifth,
out,
sixth,
second, yeah,
right, all ballots.
yeah, okay, so if nobody gets 50%, top 50% of the vote getters go on to the runoff.
So if
No,
it's
I
a
remember-
third, then you have to all three go.
It's gonna be an extra round.
So yeah,
So
yeah.
I had initially
Yeah,
brought this
why
up
not?
because of the number at large question. Because if numbers at large, typically you would think, oh, maybe you have 2 of those, so the top 2 vote recipients would advance, but that's not exactly the case. It's not the majority, like if the top 2 didn't get a majority of the voters, that wouldn't be enough. So that would essentially be a runoff. We're trying to figure out how that would make sense.
So it's not necessarily top number of vote that you win, but more.
right,
If you-
so we wouldn't just run it again for all 4 candidates, it'd be, the lowest ones drop off, and then you're just considering the top.
But then we have questions about if 4 of them have the same number of votes.
Then you
Right.
gotta
Is
vote.
that gonna be like a deadlock where we run off again and hope someone changes their
Yes.
mind? Like what, how does this,
It
Yes,
would
they
be,
have to be, because
it would be, but I think this is the part, the fairest way, the easiest way, but I think it really only applies to the member at large, that could be a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
But I think at very least for most of the other ones, if they're lower numbers running, like
We
going to
use paper ballots, how do we do this?
paper ballots.
so we're gonna reprint?
We will have more than enough
They
because
have
we are
ballots,
very
yeah,
confident.
they'll hand out blank ballots. Correct. They will have additional blank ballots after that whole runoff.
And then you're
So
right
blank.
in, so you gotta write it, so it'll be right in back.
Yes, correct, you're gonna write it in there,
Oh, okay.
we'll write it in there, okay?
That sounds
Okay.
right.
Alright, so that's the one
action
action, okay, yes, so we'll vote on that in a second.
How many
don't
voting
vote on
members
it
do
now.
we have right now?
You can work with that.
49 to 50.
48?
Couple of questions when you get a chance.
You have a full board.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
You got a full board.
Yeah.
51.
50 with 50.
50.
Okay, next,
So that's action, I think we can.
all right, so we talked about the hybrid extension, so the state did that, that'll be a further conversation for us to do. I wanted to bring it up only because it's come up in the context of ULURP with Coney Island. Coney Island has currently, the city is disposing of property to a developer so that way they can build a property. That goes, the New York City Economic Development Corporation is responsible for the disposal process. My concern, I'm flagging it for the board now, is because I'm already seeing an issue because they are doing a process very similar to us, and that might be something that happens in this district, where they've already done the process, and this is a property located in Coney Island, it's in pretty prime real estate, and the city sold it for some ridiculously low amount of money, which I have questions about because I think there have been a couple of attempts to sell property here, where we want to make sure that as a district, as a city, one, we're getting fair market value. 2, we want to make sure that whatever developer they're selling it to is actually responding to community needs in terms of whatever the RFP was. RFPs, I think, have been, overly vague in terms of, I just promise you'll build something that with some affordable housing in there. You can do that, you satisfy the RFP. I think that there are specific needs for the district that should have been included as part of the RFP in terms of, how much space we want, what kind of a mix we're looking for, what kind of amenities or community benefits should be included as part of that process, instead of just saying, you can sell it off to a developer because they promised you to give 20 or 30% of the housing, affordable housing units and units that you came in for.
They need to just come to the community to begin with, right? It's
Should
not
have,
like,
correct.
don't come up with the RFP and then say, is this okay? Come to us and say, what do we need? I mean,
Correct.
I think it's, it's a drawback that we don't have the 197A so that we can say like, you're not doing this, you're not, meeting our community's needs. But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't come to us and that they shouldn't do the community engagement. Like,
Absolutely.
like what HPD was proposing to do with the 141 Montgomery site, I think is what there needs to be that level of extensive conversations way ahead of time.
Absolutely. So I want to flag that because there will probably be a similar conversation happens. The Coney Island development, that went to the borough board. We raised several concerns with regards to that, so that's postponed. That vote's going to happen in September. But I think we need to be prepared to have those kinds of conversations here because I think there are a number of properties. The administration has already said that they want to move forward with a number of these. So I think we want to be prepared for these conversations and be able to have, the appropriate pushback if necessary in terms of what are we getting back? Is it really suitable? Is this something that benefits the district?
And are you guys hearing the Brooklyn Marine Terminal one too? Because that's a similar situation where EDC.
I hadn't heard that one specifically. It might not coming up. I would assume it's going to come up on the agenda.
And that one is just absolutely ginormous.
Probably within the next few months, we'll probably hear about that one.
Okay.
Is my guess. All right. Okay. So that's that. Let's do this. Let's dispose of these items first. One, do I have a motion to put to the floor a motion that the top 50% for runoffs?
So we'll turn that.
I have it moved by Mr. Eleanor. Second by Ms. Watson. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Just about the elections in general.
Okay. Okay. All right. Move seconded. Any other debate? All right. Can we approve this to go forward by common consent? Okay. Approved by common consent. Please note that. Thank you. All right. Yes. Go ahead. Your questions.
Oh, just a couple questions. Does the candidate have to be present in order to?
Yes, because I think we've done that as a practice.
And if the candidate isn't there, does the person running against them automatically become?
No,
So
your name is still on the ballot. I
if
believe.
you're not there, do votes for you become invalid?
Your past practice has been we've required it to be there. Let me do this. Dante, can we call a corporation council to find out if there's a requirement? It's not in the bylaws. It is not in the bylaws, so I don't think there's anything about you need to be present.
Okay, so I'm not gonna be present.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Let me double check. We'll double check with corporation council. We'll get that clarification. But I know practice has been that, but we should probably get that clarified. So we'll let you know as soon as we
I'm so sorry.
No, because I mean, like if someone's writing in a name too, and that name is not there, does that?
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Because
Somebody
you
wants
can't
somebody, yeah.
if you're not there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like the person, you can write someone's name who's not there,
Yeah.
but they're on the board. Like
But they're not
Well,
there.
hold on. No,
that doesn't mean
no.
that they don't exist.
No, the
No.
question becomes,
It's
is
still a
that a
vote.
valid vote? But the question becomes, is it a valid vote then?
If they haven't accepted, then.
Yes, they're not accepted.
No,
They're
no,
not
no,
random.
You can write in.
You can write in.
You can
You
write.
can write in. Now, the point becomes, if I wrote in a name that's not, a candidate or is not eligible otherwise,
How do you-
it's an invalid
Yes,
vote,
it's
so
an
the vote doesn't count.
Right, but if the person's just eligible but just not in the room.
He's not in the room. That's the one thing I'd have to get corporation counsel to
Yes.
confirm. So we'll get that. Okay, next.
You gotta- you
Because
gotta-
I'm not
And I understand, I apologize, there's a lot of moving parts. I do have one item that will require an executive session. It's a personnel matter that we need to discuss. Okay, all right, do I have a motion, do I have a motion on the floor to enter into executive session? Okay, moved by Ethan Norville, do I have a second? Seconded by Liz Watson. All right. Please, sir.